Well, ladies and gentlemen, after months and months and months and potentially even more months of teasing that eventually, just like we had started the Attack on Titan, the Great Attack on Titan Reread, we would also start the Great Berserk Reread, and instead of hanging out with those other two losers, we would bring it back to the original cast with me and Jarkey Bacon to go back through Berserk, a double reread, because we've both seen it before. And finally, yes, we are here. You are hearing our voices. Well, my voice right now, because I haven't introed Bacon.
I'm here.
I'm here with Jarkey Bacon. Can you
Me! It's me, the bestest Bacon around. Only known by Bacon, but actually secretly known as Jarkey Bacon on my YouTube channel. Because I've got a YouTube channel handle now, and it's at Jarkey Bacon. Have you got that sorted, Kyle, yet, huh?
I think the Kyle Entertainment one already is like that because I already got a custom one for hitting 1,000 subscribers. I'm flexing right now. Dang. You can't see it, but I'm doing it.
Okay.
But I didn't figure it out for the second channel because I can't remember the email thingy. Actually, I think I do remember it right now.
I'm so old school that I was able to change my URL before they put in that thing in place. Yeah, so I didn't need
the
1K.
apocalypse and they changed everything to 1K. Yeah.
Exactly.
I definitely didn't have the Kyle Entertainment channel back then, I'll tell you what. Well, this is the second Kyle Entertainment channel, let's not forget. We know the history.
Boys, where we at?
We don't need to get into all of that nonsense. There were a lot more old Berserk videos back on the original channel.
ENT Nation sounds like you're definitely some alt-right dude. Like Entertainment Nation, like
I'm nationalistic. Yep, we're a nation. My followers here. Anyway, we're here to reread Berserk. Berserk, greatest story of all time. That's what Kyle Entertainment think. Jarkey Bacon, I think if you go on Mel, he gave it a 3. Actually, I think he gave it a 7.
Yeah.
Bacon's a big ass hater. He likes this dork-ass Vinland Saga shit. You can go over to the Elite or the Ordinary RE channel, rather, and you can see him and RE as RE's first time reading Vinland Saga. Go through the entire series, and we're going to try and replicate something like that. Look at the visuals right here. We just stole his whole shit. And by we, I mean Bacon. I'm accusing him of stealing and also accusing him of doing all the work. But yes.
I am in fact recording.
We're going to be doing a similar thing
because Kyle has a baby boy battery, tiny little weenie battery, and I've got.
Well, as long as I'm not recording anything, it's almost a considerable battery. It might last about 3 hours. Wow. I do have a bunch of chapters open that I usually don't when we record the Black Sail stuff. You can also go over to the Ordinary RE channel and watch the Black Sail series reviews that we did in a similar vein to this, where instead of Bacon, it was just me and RE. But we got to rotate the cast. So now, this time, it's just me and Bacon. And Berserk is longer than all of these fucking things, so we might be here for a little while. We've opted to do the Black Swordsman Arc in one big thing here. Originally, when I pitched this about 7 months ago, when I also pitched the Attack on Titan one and we were splitting that up, I said that we would do the Golden Age in 3 sections. I think we probably still will do that. It'll probably result in all of these being shorter than the Black Sails ones. Bacon's scared we don't have more than like 40 minutes to talk about in this. I'll have to remind him that I can talk about this shit for 17 hours. But we'll try not to bore everybody. But I think how we'll split it up is, I think because I originally did a whole plan for this like 7 months ago, but I think we were going to split into 3, stop after Zod, then stop after Doldry, or maybe even the Griffith getting beaten up and on the snowy peak, and then he really starts to get beaten up, and then we'd do till the end. That might be a good thing. I'll look into that. Tentatively, that's the plan moving forward. But nonetheless, that's anything else we should go over before we actually get into the content, Bacon? Anything we got to tell the people about?
Well, just one massive thing. Next Saturday, big video on my channel. So I'm just plugging it here because why not? It's about Vinland Saga. So if you're up to date on Vinland Saga, I mean, what else am I going to talk about? Let's be honest here. Just head on over there. It's been... Well, I finished filming it all in April. So it's been in the edit chamber for a while. Let's just say...
Bacon won't even tell me what this video is about. What a prick.
Well, no, I think I told you. I told you before, mate. You're just not remembering.
Well, I've forgotten what a prick this Bacon is. Wait, I have no idea what this fucking video is about. Anyway, you can tell me afterwards.
Yeah.
If
we
you don't
can
want to
we can
spoil it
make.
here for the people.
No, no, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. I mean, I doubt anybody
I
that.
get the secret information.
Yeah, yeah. Shh, keep on the down low. Yeah, this is friend's
Mhm.
privilege. Anyway, should we start
Indeed.
with some overall thoughts? Should I give you my
Hey,
overall
I'm
thoughts on my
supposed to
bad
ask you,
takes?
Bacon.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
oh,
What?
there actually is something we should talk about beforehand.
Okay.
The conceit here of our reread to make it stand out from the rest is that maybe we'll try to convince Bacon that Berserk is actually good. That's going to be our mission statement going
Not good,
through.
but a
Uh,
masterpiece. Okay, the
ugh,
greatest
what a
piece
gross word.
of media to ever grace our eyeballs. Um, and
I mean, it's like a top 3. I mean, Madman exists. We got Black
It's true.
Sails over there.
Yeah, I'll be
We got
surprised if it beats The Wire as well. That's another one.
yes,
Another one.
Bacon and this
We
silly
need.
cop show.
Yeah, I know.
Shake my head.
We need to get on these other shows that we've watched. Maybe
We
maybe we
can,
could do
Woo.
this with like The Wire, and I could do this with Mad Men with you or something like that, or The Sopranos.
Oh my god, Bacon Ari refuses to commit to Madman and Minty and me keep screaming at him. You might step in.
Well, I've
But you
already
already
watched
watched
the
some
first. I've
episodes.
watched 2 episodes, and I got like so my anxiety was like peeking through the roof, seeing her go to like bed with this Weasley guy. I'm like, no, don't do it.
No, it's a good scene,
It's a
Bacon.
great
It's her
scene.
taking her power back.
It's a
But
great
yeah.
scene, but I'm like, no,
I
it
wrote a
just
whole
makes me
video
feel
about
bad.
that scene.
Yes, I
Um,
actually watched that video. It was a good video. You were
but
trashing
nonetheless,
anime.
we're not talking about Madman, Bacon. We gotta talk about Berserk. We gotta get back on topic. Um, but yes, one day we'll do Madman with somebody, and it'll make me the happiest boy in the world. Speaking of, this fucking Minty prick won't do it, and
He
he's not
won't.
even doing a second House of the Dragon video yet. If you're wondering where
No.
that is, he fucking pulled out. He said, "There's not that much to talk about. I don't want to just complain." What a fucking loser. Nonetheless, I told you to stop tangenting, and I had to shit on Minty for a second. He's not gonna watch this. Fuck him. Oh, this is the thing. Bacon, give us your overall thoughts on the Black Swordsman arc.
Thank you. I think for me, the Black Swordsman arc is the one that I was like, oh, I do not want to read Berserk because I'm gonna have to read this again because I've read this like 4 times, and this is not including watching the great manga animation. But is it Studio Taka? Like the ones online?
Yeah, I
Those
think
ones
so.
are absolutely amazing. So I feel like I've seen this like story so many times, whether it's in like different animes, different fan projects, reading it. So I'm like, in terms of story beats, and it's one of those things like the more I've read it, it's not for like I've gotten more out of it. It's one of those things I'm like, I enjoyed it on the first time, and I'm just kind of getting worn down because I don't need to see it again. I also think that, I mean, just the scans. Like, so I've got it in like, so for this, I've committed to this series. I bought the big black tome so you can see the definitive Berserk editions, these big old boys. And I mean, I was a bit scared of putting on my shelf because things are pretty graphic in here. So I'm just like worried if I have like say if like I have a nephew
The
coming
last
over.
page of that tome might
Yeah, it
might
literally
scare
is.
some people off.
Literally, the first and last pages are pretty graphic. Anyway, but it's like, what if like a kid comes around my house and they accidentally like, oh, a cool black
Yeah.
book, let's open it, and they just see, oh, here's the naked lady having a massive orgy with her goat demon god guy, and
Now that one's sick. There's no rape going on there. We like that one.
True, that one's better. That's all consensual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because I think I hate to be the guy that brings up the basic opinion 101 and be like, yeah, the Black Swordsman is probably the worst arc in Berserk. Like, oh no, that's a unique opinion right there. But I think it is. I think Mura is getting to grips with like how he wants to tackle this, and it doesn't feel to me like he necessarily had a cohesive plan. So let me just bring in an actual good author and good drawer, Makoto Yukimura. Oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But yeah, so if I've been reading Planet Test recently, and you can see the same things when they're young.
That's
and
the
they're
Vinland
starting
Saga guy, by the way.
yeah, sorry.
For everybody
So he's the guy who's written Vinland Saga. But Vinland Saga was in his first work. He did a manga beforehand, and when you're reading that, you can see there's a little bit of sloppiness, but the spark is there. I think you can still see it in the Black Swordsman that there is definitely an idea here, and like people like to say it's like super dark and edgy, and it kind of is. But you got characters like Puck who kind of alleviate and bring a sort of brightness to it as well. So I think there it isn't just like all edge and no substance. I guess for sure. So it's I'm rambling a bit at this point, but yeah, I think it's one. It just feels a little bit sloppy, and things will definitely tighten up from here. But I'll be interested, at least from my memory, because I haven't actually. I've only read the rest of the manga once. I've seen
Yeah.
the movies, the Berserk movies, but apart from that, like I don't actually remember the stuff happening that well. Apart from the demon that looks like a penis, so I remember that part.
There's a few of those.
Probably true. So, anyway, yeah, that's about it.
But that's Bacon's overall thoughts. Before we give my overall thoughts, I do write some things down to comment on. Bacon, you said this was your 4th time through or something, the Black Swordsman Arc. I think, by coincidence, it might legitimately be my 4th time through too.
Oh, nice.
And you also talked about the feeling of not wanting to reread. I also had that feeling going in, but as soon as I started, it went away. So we probably differ on that front because, and I've actually read the whole thing 4 times. Well, this would be my 4th time, but 3 times before. I read Berserk a bunch of times. But I went back wait, no, this would be the 5th Black Swordsman time because about a year and a half ago, I went back and I was going to do a full reread. And this was before Mura had even died. So we were going to figure out Berserk. We were going to start making Berserk videos on the main channel again, which still hasn't happened. Hopefully, again, this will be a vehicle for that to eventuate. Because I do have a big Black Swordsman's like draft script that has like 10,000 words in it that I did actually go through like yesterday or the day before. Found out it was kind of all shitty. And there wasn't a lot of actual substance going on in these 10,000 words. But I'll bring up some of those talking points as we continue. But yeah, so that would have been my 4th time, I think. And because I stopped, because I wanted to make that video before I continued, I was like, ugh. I was in the same position where I was like, do I have to read this all again? Like, I feel like I would have read through the whole thing and we would have done this reread. One thing also that Bacon didn't mention, his 3rd time through was like 7 months ago when we decided to do this, and I never ended up reading it and kept delaying it. So I also fucked Bacon on that front there. Yeah, so I also had that feeling of like Black Swordsman again. I just read this. But I knew I had to do it again to have it clearly in my mind if we were going to talk about it, and if I want to actually make that Black Swordsman video, which I still do want to make. Black Swordsman video is going to be called The Black Swordsman Arc is Better Than I Remembered, or Better Than I Thought, or we'll workshop the title, something about that. Now, last time when I reread it like a year and a half ago, it actually was an awakening of like, this is way better than I remembered. It specifically being. It's probably still the worst arc. I don't know how you compare it to Fantasia, especially with these recent chapters that aren't Mura explicitly, though supposedly is still his plan. And obviously we'll read Fantasia in context, in full, I guess, since apparently it's over. In, I don't know, a year's time when we catch up or whatever. But so I agree with mainly what you're saying, Bacon, about it probably being the worst. And there is, I don't know if I would say sloppiness, because it does connect better than I remembered it. And this is also stuff we're talking about. So I feel like it might be from my my lower expectations of thinking that the Black Swordsman arc doesn't fit as well as it does, that I went back and I'm like, actually, it fits pretty well. There's a few places in which it doesn't. But some of that ends up working in the Golden Age arc's favor because you assume everyone's going to die, but not everybody dies, and that's sort of a cool... because obviously nobody's with guts here, so Rickett and Casca can't be alive, but actually they are. Oh, also, we should have said this at the beginning, we're spoiling everything. We're talking about it all in context. We're not dilly-dallying around. This is a reread meme, and not a first-time through watch along as you go. Something also interesting. Oh, first of all, we love Puck. Bacon mentioned that, so I jotted that down. An interesting thing we can talk about, and maybe we'll save this later, or Bacon, you can say if you want to talk about this now. There is an interview I remember reading about Mura talking about what he had planned out at this point. Should we talk about this now, Bacon?
Sure, let's do it. Let's do it.
In this,
yeah.
Casca apparently didn't exist at all, so that's probably the biggest thing. You probably heard. I probably said this on stream.
Yeah, I think I've heard you say it on stream,
right?
or in your amazing Patreon video ranking the Berserk arcs.
Oh, I probably did. That video is now public for everybody, even though Bacon paid for it.
Yeah,
Poor
still paying
Bacon.
for great Patreon content. Subscribe.
Yes. Well, I don't promise any Patreon content anymore.
No,
Right?
you don't.
So,
I'm literally just
um,
supporting the man.
yes. Hey,
Yeah.
don't be saying that.
Hey, no, you work in a no, you're
Yes.
that's what you do. You're
Yes.
like scrubbing.
I might cut that legitimately, Bacon.
Oh dear, I'm doxing it. Just bleep it
God.
out. Just bleep it out, and
Yeah.
then everybody will feel bad, but they can hear this point. You know, that's what you have to do.
Bacon knows too much, chat. We got to take him out. Yes. Will I remember to bleep it? Uh-oh. Anyway.
It's at 15 minutes and 55 seconds here.
Okay. We'll see if I remember that. Hold on, I'll write it down. But yeah, actually, that was a big interview with Mura that I remember having a lot of cool insight. He also like kind of spoiled the ending where he's like, obviously we're heading towards a Guts and Griffith final fight or something. And I was like, I didn't know if it was going to be a fight. But he talked about some. I wonder if I could find that interview again because I remember reading it like 3 years ago. But yeah, he mentions that Casket didn't exist, which is interesting because Bacon, have you ever read the prototype Berserk chapter?
No, I've seen countless YouTube videos talking about it, but I've never been like, yeah this looks like something I want to read.
Because Guts' backstory in that is that his mother was eaten by demons in front of him, and that's why he hates them, rather than what eventuates in the Golden Age arc. Now, that probably wasn't when Mura goes in to start writing this stuff. He probably has Griffith in mind at this point. Now, there is a Griffith character in the prologue, but it's like a little girl who Guts saves at the beginning, and she kind of looks like Griffith. She has like none of his characterization. And at the end, the apostles serve a different thingy. It's not the God Hand. It's like, I feel like it starts with an R or something. Also, Guts is skinnier. Puck exists, which proves that Puck is the real second most important character in all of Berserk. Castor and Griffith don't count. Fuck them. They lame. Get them out of here. We love Puck. But yes, my Puck worship will continue. Not just through this episode, but into the future indefinitely. I think I said either in Discord or maybe to Miller in a DM, I was like, Puck is the second best Berserk character. Get these fucking idiots out of here. Get this dork with his big sword out of here. He ain't a top 3 character anymore. But yeah, those are the only things I noted down about your overall thoughts. I guess my overall thoughts are just, I kind of already said them. It's better than I originally I would have said like 2.5 years ago. I think it fits a little better than I guess some people give it credit for. Some parts stick out where they really don't fit, and mostly in Femto's characterization, which I'm sure is something we'll talk about. He's talking a lot of shit and being a bit maniacal when he's kind of a silent bloke generally outside of this. Though there are only 3 Femto scenes in the entire manga. And
yeah,
this is
it's fascinating.
Yeah, because there's the Eclipse one where not a word is spoken, and then in the Skull Knight Fantasia beginning thingy, he just speaks an exposition. So this is the only time we really get any characterization. So maybe this is the real Femto, and he's out of character later. That's probably not the case when you speak about.
See, I just never noticed these types of things. So I've got a few things I guess we could talk about as well, but I think we should probably just.
I have one more overall thing.
I was just deciding not to butt in because actually I think we can kind of talk about these things as we go through. So
gotta save the delicious internal part of the pie. I don't know where I was going with that analogy. For the center. That's what I was saying, Bacon. You gotta save the best for last. I don't know, something like that. Oh no, in my tangent I might have lost the one thing I had to say.
No.
Berserk is there's a lot of Berserk goodness. I would say the moment to moment Berserk goodness is still there in the Black Swordsman arc, and I remember this being the profound thing. Well, I guess that and the thematic girth, the thematic depth, the theming stuff that I like, where it really fits into the larger whole. Because those 1,000 words for that script were basically about structure and about themes entirely, and there was some characters thrown in throughout. Because one of the themes is about fake exteriors and masks, which lends itself very well to character discussion. So those are 2 things that have stood out to me and that I still very much like about this arc, which is obviously things we'll get into. But this specific moment to moment, I remember when I first started reading One Piece, I compared it a lot to Berserk. and said like I remember I had a default title for a video that was never going to get made called like this was back in edgy Kyle Entertainment time, so it was going to be called like Berserk and One Piece are great for the same reason or something, and it was going to be the character interactions and the little minute by minute like gags are what actually make these two fucking things the best, not the dramatic Berserk is a masterpiece. Let's go on this big let's talk deep and into the microphone about how Berserk is the greatest thing of all time, and we never actually say anything about it. I'm shit talking YouTubers right now, Bacon. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah.
But
Gonna call out any by name, huh? Or are you gonna be a
I honestly
coward?
can't think of any by name. It's just like an idea in my head right now.
Yeah, it's the boogeyman of random Reddit comments that we've just read
Yes,
so many of.
it's
Yeah.
the community vaguely in my
Yeah.
mind, haunting me in my dreams
Yeah,
forever.
that's
Somebody
yeah.
that doesn't really exist, but
Yeah,
exists.
this nebulous blob. I was there was another because I'm on the Vinland Saga brain pill. There was someone saying, oh, what was it? So you know, like the picture of Guts like tinkering with his armor, like
Yeah.
in one of the early volumes, and they're like, is this a Berserk reference on the Vinland Saga subreddit? And so it has the picture of Berserk of Guts tinkering with his armor, and then a picture of like Hild, like the starting cover of chapter 125, I want to say, around about there, and she's like tinkering with her crossbow, and they're like sitting down cross-legged, tinkering something, and this
Yeah.
guy's like, "Is
Because
this
of
a
the crossbow.
Berserk reference?" And all the comments are roasting him for being such a numpty. Like, I'm just like, it's great. I love
Berserk
that.
invented crossbows.
Yeah, true that.
Sorry to say, but it did.
Yeah, it did.
But yes, just finishing my interactions point. All the little things with Puck, I think these are my favorite things. Maybe in all of Berserk when we get into it more. But I
Yeah.
really do like the characters. It just bleeds. It just. Oh, and this was comparing it to the One Piece thing. Like I used to say too that every panel in One Piece is a 10. Every chapter is great. Every arc is great because it's constantly and always One Piece. It's got the identity of One Piece. It bleeds through it. And if you buy into it immediately like I did, where in the first fucking page is Luffy stabbing himself in the face to prove that he's real man and he ain't no bitch. And you're like, man, that's the fucking coolest thing I ever saw. I love this little fucking kid. Now, the first page in Berserk isn't really like this. But as you envelop, it's sort of, it becomes like everything sort of exudes what I like about Berserk. I was gonna say greatness, but that's one thing the community would say about Berserk. And I feel like I fundamentally like Berserk as much as I do for very different reasons than the community likes Berserk or whatever. Where it would be, my God, Guts is the deepest character of all time. Griffith, my goodness, the deepest character of all time. And I guess the last thing I've just thought of this is usually what I like in regards to these characters is ambiguity surrounding them, which is something we'll get into a lot more as we talk about things. But the ambiguity is also there. I associate that more with the later story, or the Golden Age moving forward, but there is a lot of that also in the Black Swordsman arc. But I would probably agree it's the worst arc, Lamau. That's a summary of my overall thoughts, Bacon. Anything to say about any of that, or should we get into
I think
our
that
structure?
video you're thinking of, if you made it like 5 minutes, it could be a good video. I think, just talking about content creation for a second here, I've like scripted out a few videos that may just never, because I just don't think I have the time for it at the moment, or just whatever. But like if I could just make it like a 5 minute just quick video out there, or either like make a thread condensing most of the points on my Twitter, then that's like, then I'm still getting out there and it's almost satisfying in a way. Even yeah, so like I had this whole video scripted on one of the Vinland Saga chapters most recently, and I just didn't get out before the next chapter came out, and I was proven exactly right, and I was molding on Twitter. I was mad because I predicted everything. I was big braining it, so I just put it on Twitter, and people seem to like it anyway. It's a little less permanent, but it works.
Yeah. There's there was some times because I went in and out of doing that with Attack on Titan where I would write chapter reviews, and like the getting it out like 2 days before the next chapter comes out, and then there's like the first leak page comes out and the video's not out, and you're just fucking losing it. It's the worst feeling in the world to be on that. And because it's not like if you make a self-imposed like time clock like Bacon's doing for his video that's coming out on Saturday.
Yeah.
Or Friday, Bacon. Saturday, I was right. Don't second guess yourself. You can push it back and be like, Yeah, and it's not like going to be outdated. It's like the ultimate coming at you of time. Like you have to get this out, or it's going to be completely outdated in 2 days. It's the fucking worst feeling. But yeah,
irrelevancy. Yeah,
yeah,
sucks,
it's
bro.
fucking insane. But are we going to get into our formal structure here, Bacon?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
We're going to start. We opted, instead of going character by character, to go more chronologically for this first part, at least, because the Black Swordsman Arc separates pretty well into 3 categories. We've got Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and then the Guardians of Desire stuff. I remember the title of the name. I remember the first time reading Berserk and being like, Guardians of Desire? What the fuck does that mean? I guess they're talking about the God Hand? They're guarding Desire a little bit?
Yeah, true.
Maybe? I guess I haven't really thought about it at all. What? I don't even know. Is the first chapter called The Black Swordsman? It probably is, huh?
Let me try and
Hold on, I'm scrolling down. It is. And then chapter 2 is called The Brand. And then Guardians of Desire, chapter 1, chapter 2, and I think it goes all the way up to chapter 6. It does indeed. There are 8 chapters, and they're all pretty fucking long in this arc.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, there are some long chapters. I wonder how he released them.
Well, I know the first one came out in 89, and the second one didn't come out till 90.
Oh, really?
So, but I think he started at the end of 89, so it might not be that long.
Okay.
There's a Berserk release Excel thingy that you have for Vinland Saga that's not Berserk. Yes, but I don't have it offhand. So anyway. So how do we start with this? I guess do you want me to give my overall thoughts on chapter 1, Bacon, and then we go back and forth?
Yeah, you do.
I guess we should just jump in. It doesn't have to be so formalized, you know.
Yeah, just talk about stuff you like, and
there's a structure, because I want to talk about overall structure of the arc and then overall structure of the series and why it all works. The overall structure of this chapter also is very interesting. Now, this chapter is it has some things that stick out. Obviously, it's chapter 1, in things that maybe don't make the most sense. The Snake Baron himself as a villain is very competent for the structure of the first thingy. He's the evilest character in Berserk, probably. I guess Wild exists, huh?
Yeah, but he is. He's not the
Wild
most
is like a scared old man at the end, so it's kind of, well, I guess the Snake Baron is scared. The thing is, usually with apostles that hang around for a little while, there is sort of this. There is more depth to them than the Snake Baron. Now, obviously, the Snake Baron is only around for, this chapter is 90 pages, and you really can't flesh out a villain when you're trying to introduce a world, 2 characters, 2 main characters, a conflict that can all be self-resolved in 90 pages, it's telling you this is. So it's a very difficult thingy to do, especially when you want chapter 1 to kind of be self-contained to this one conflict. But he does stick out as a sore thumb. Now, his design is really cool, but he does stick out as a sore thumb a little bit, as sort of like, Rosine has a great bit of like layering and making her more interesting. The Count is basically, the whole Count arc is basically a demonstration on what Berserk can be moving forward in sort of depth and character motivation and all of this stuff. So the Count is great. I love the Count. He would be an S tier if we're making a tier list. We'll save our tier list for the very end, I think, Bacon. Like, sure. Me and Ari did that for Black Sails rather than, you guys went every arc basically with Vinland Saga. But
I see,
we'll worry about tier lists way later.
Yeah, just because he didn't know the rest of the characters. Like we're rereading this, so.
Bacon, if we bring up the most detailed tier list, I bet you get some of the names wrong.
Oh,
and
definitely.
I'd laugh at you. Wait, Laban and Owen? I remember them. I was going to say, those are the names I always forget. I'm sure there's others I would forget. Who would I forget? I probably would. Each one of Salat's Bakiraka companions, the bald dudes with the big fists. You remember these blokes, Bacon?
Yeah, I remember.
They all have names. I definitely don't remember their names individually. Oh, okay. I think they have names. Oh, there's also the other Bakiraka that Hunter Griffith and the gang in the sewers. They all have names. I definitely don't remember their names. Anyway, we would forget names and stuff. The Snake Baron doesn't have a name. He's just called the Snake Baron. I was talking about the Snake Baron. He stands out a little bit. Oh, we were saying Rosine has a lot of, when we're doing these little apostle hunts, which there really only is 3. There's the Snake Baron, the Count, and Rosine. One of these is not like the other. The other 2 are very interesting characters that basically don't carry their whole arcs. There's a lot more going on. But again, this isn't an arc. This is just a chapter. Structurally, it does well to kind of not really introduce guts, which is sort of the point here. Well, I guess I should stop there. Do you have anything to say about the Snake Baron, particularly, Bacon, or do you want me
Nothing
to keep
on his.
going?
I feel like he's not the most compelling. I think just the first chapter in general. Like I think when I think of the Black Swordsman arc, I think of having to reread this chapter so many times. This particular
Yeah,
chapter, this story, and I mean, it's just like that. Like for me, there is like no emotional like moment that just like hits you. Um, I I feel like I'm gonna be such a broken record because it's just on the membrane, so I apologize. But Planet Test, like its first chapter, it's like it's a lot shorter, but it just leaves you with this emotional, just like, oof, you know. And Berserk definitely does this later, particularly with the Count. I thought that was, I really
yeah.
enjoyed that part. But like this one in general, he just doesn't leave you with the oof factor. Like I guess it's kind of compelling because it does help introduce like a little some complexity to the fight. There's a bit of some tension when Gus is fighting him, and he whips out his cannon arm,
Yeah.
the classic, and it is cathartic. But I think, yeah, maybe it's not. Maybe like earlier when I was saying sloppy is not the right term, but it just feel like almost like a first pass of a writing story. It is. You can tell that
Yeah.
Mura is not as trained as and knowing where he wants to go, and he's kind of like I feel like if I was when I was 20, if I tried to write something, I would write something like this where it just lacks like the
Are you
emotional
fucking
sting.
22, Bacon?
Yeah, I am. I think I could write something better than this
Fucking
if I
shit
was
talking
I don't know.
20-year-olds
I
at
mean, I can draw
22.
something
Can you
like this,
believe this
but I
guy?
couldn't maybe write it,
But yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
I get
like
what you mean.
if
It's obviously evidently edgy. Obviously the meme, first page is Guts balls deep in a crazy demon girl. Um,
yeah,
I
but
remember reading it. Wait, you keep
I
going,
guess
Bacon. I think I cut you off.
I get it's not actually the edgy thing because I actually kind of like that first page when I'm like, oh wow, this is kind of different. This is kind of unique. Like I know it is kind of like, oh, here we're edgy, but like it's just like I think just for the whole fight, it feels a little bit uh like I can
By the
tell where it's
numbers?
going by the numbers. I can tell where it's going. It's kind of trying, like you can see what it's trying to do, but it's not working. I think that's maybe the main thing, and sometimes it does work,
Hmm.
and sometimes things do get a bit jumpy as well. Like when I mean we're fully going into it now, but like when Guts kind of turns up and he like he's walking away with Puck, and then all the guards turn out in front of him, and you're like, oh okay, like I guess he's just in jail now. And then later on he kind of bosses some of the same guards. I don't know. I think for me, like the fighting, there's a charm to it where it is like very simplistic, but that simplicity gives it
Hmm.
grit. It gives it like this feeling of like this isn't some high mind. It's not like say like a sports anime where this is art. This is like we are being the biggest brain boys that we've trained for our lives for this. This feels like it does feel like a gritty fight for survival. So I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that I did definitely appreciate in this. Like you're like, oh my word, Gus is getting punished. But then at the same time, I think this is my issue with the whole series. And no, like you can see you always see Guts getting beaten up, and he always gets back up. But for me, that almost robs most tension. Like that when Berserk, like I never feel scared for Guts, just because I'm like the guy just established from the first chapter can just take on heaps of pain that like I have just no like scale for, because I know he's meant to be human, but he's taking like way more than a human can.
Yeah.
So I just have no like way to comprehend how much pain he can take. So the best times in Berserk when you feel like lost is when while Guts is able to survive, his friends aren't,
It's what
or
happens
people
around
you
him.
care
Yeah.
about. Yeah, that's when it really hits. And so I think there's something about that as well, where it's like Guts versus the Apostle. When you're rereading it, you're like, I'm never like questioning whether Guts will survive or not. And I mean, it makes sense. You're not going to kill your protagonist in the first chapter, but it's like I never doubt his victory. And it feels like he just gets up, and that's how his superpowers, that he just keeps on getting up. And I guess it's just not the most compelling. I don't know. It's a similar thing with the
Yeah.
fight with the Count. Like the Count itself, like I'm never like, oh my word, this monster's unable to be defeated. Like I'm just like, Guts will just keep on going. I'm just like, wow, I'm surprised Guts can keep on going, but I'm never like hyped about it. That kind of almost takes the wind out of the sails. But then he gets transported to a new world, and you're like, holy crap, like this, whoever this
A
Vento
lot
or
of
Griffiths
intrigue in
dude
that. Yeah.
is like
It's different.
like So it's one of these things where, the fights in Berserk do vary in how compelling they are, and it's very interesting, I think, as like a case study to think about. So, sorry, ramble.
Yeah. I got a bunch of things to say about everything you said, Bacon. I got notes on notes.
Yeah.
Fuck, where do we start? I guess we'll start with the last thing he said because it'll seem like a conversation then. I think it's actually funny because I used to make this point about Levi a lot, how Levi is indestructible, he's never going to die, but he has to watch everybody around him die. And that kind of is the Guts thing, and especially in the Golden Age arc, because we know that Guts is the one that survives. So this meme you're talking about, how you don't really ever feel scared for Guts in those fights, like when he's battling... Oh, speaking of forgetting names, the dude from Doldry, Boscone. Of course, I remember his name. Bacon.
Oh yeah, the 1v1, the big old boy.
But I feel like because you can't be scared that he's gonna die there. But even then, the intrigue is that Zod shows up and throws him his fucking sword, and that's like that gives that fight
that's
tension.
Interesting.
Like that. I think you can easily get swept up in tension. Like you initially said that there wasn't really like a big fuck yeah Guts moment. I feel like, well, not even Guts moment, but any moment in the chapter. I feel like I feel like I still have that moment when he wins at the end. I think him getting beaten down and getting up, I feel like you can get swept along with that, even if I think you can get lost in the moment, not as in like, oh, Guts is gonna die, but just like you feel like. I feel like a lot of this this chapter also rides on the meme Goku DBZ thing of like there will be this repeated thing in DBZ where the characters around Goku don't realize that Goku is like the strongest man in the universe. So this dude will talk a lot of shit and then Goku will just like flick him or whatever. Now usually actually Goku doesn't flick him and it's like this blue balls effect where he doesn't show everybody how strong he is. But sort of the dramatic irony of and it's established very quickly that Guts is this big bad fuck, and like you want to see the mayor dude react to Guts when he fucks up the Snake Baron, and you want to see Puck's reaction to it. So that adds a little bit of like you want to see the reveal of. Berserk actually does this to masterful effect with the blue ballsing effect because Isidro's favorite bloke is the 100-man Slayer, but he never realizes that Guts is his idol. And it's sort of like a cute blue balls thing of like, Guts could just say, hey, Isidro, I'm flexing right here. I'm kind of the 100-man Slayer. Yeah. Obviously, that's not a Guts thing to do, but you kind of want... We talk about this with Vinland Saga every time, Bacon. What am I doing Goku memes for you?
Yeah, no,
with Thorfinn and Ivar,
Yeah, we've done this. I think actually... Thinking about to my first read of this, and I think I'm getting compounded. I think seeing Guts like getting beat down, like holy crap, like this guy is taking heaps of pain and getting up doing it. Like you're kind of surprised by it because he gets like slammed into. Oh no! The Snake Man gets slammed into a building. And
the tail slams on him a bunch of times. And
yeah,
and god damn,
it is visceral. And then he uses like the cannon for the first time. You're like, oh my word, this is really
yeah.
Like, I love that like the wild card because like who would expect a cannon in your like forearm and like how the wrist like falls down? That's really cool. But I think for me like just reading the Black Swordsman for the first time when it got Tyson was in the Count fight when I'm like, okay, like for me it's just like, and there's other things when we'll probably get to it, but there's like certain panels where I'm just like, that just looks goofy to me. It doesn't look cool. It doesn't look even edgy. It just looks like this looks ridiculous and it like takes me out of the story. So there's a few things
in the Snake Baron fight.
No, in the Baron fight, in the later fight. Sorry,
in the Snake Baron fight.
No.
Oh,
sorry,
the
Count fight. So I'm calling him something different now. But
really,
Count,
okay.
So
I don't know what you're talking about, Bacon, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
There's also a consistent thing when Guts gets beaten down that there's way too much blood. Like there's this one panel.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a number on it, but there's like the second time I think the tail comes down on Guts, there's like a whole pool of blood coming out of his mouth, and it's like this man should be dead. But that's part of the point, right? He is superhuman in this aspect. He's the struggler, Bacon. He's gonna get back up, and I'm not complaining about realism blood or whatever. On a few other things, just I had this written down and to get back to it, but because we brought up the hand cannon thing, and this is actually something I think I only noticed on like my third read through, is that the hand, like they save the cannon thing for the reveal at the end. And I actually remember watching a old Digibro video, where she talked about episode 1. with her brother at the time, and they just talked about episode 1 of Berserk, and I think they were comparing it to episode 1 of 2016 and being like, 2016 sucks. That's like one of the biggest videos they ever did. But the interesting thing is Guts uses the cannon in the first scene, but you don't see it. It cuts away to like a long shot of the night, and there's a sound effect, and then you cut back to the demon dead on the ground, sort of in flames. So it's sort of like, ooh, what happened? How did he kill it? And then it's saved for the big reveal at the end after he's used his impressive sword, but it still wasn't enough, and we get the reveal of what happened back there to the original demon. And actually, the cannon thing continues throughout the arc. We can skip ahead a little bit.
You can see the mouth in her thing.
Yeah, he shoves the cannon in there. And I think on like my second reread, I was like, oh, he'd use the cannon. And I didn't even like consider that it didn't happen on screen, and we're saving this for a reveal at the big climax at the end of the chapter, which again is a neat little structural thing.
True.
But also, he uses the cannon in the second chapter to get all of the demons out of him, which is like the final thing he has to do in the second chapter. And then obviously he uses it also to beat the count. So repeatedly, to beat the apostles, the hardest foes, he has to use the cannon. And then the big build-up ending of this is that he tries to use the cannon on Femto at the end, and it has no effect, and that's what breaks Guts in the end.
Yeah,
it's a neat little build-up of using the hand cannon, of like, it's sort of like his last trump card, and you're like, all right, Guts will win because he hasn't used the hand cannon yet, and then he uses it on Femto, and it's sort of a thematic thing of like, this vengeance is completely useless. You're chasing a shadow of a man that doesn't even exist on this plane, when you should be at home being a husband, goddammit. And so it's sort of a thematic representation of like, Guts is not strong enough to fuck with Femto. The cannon is not going to kill Femto. It's not going to beat the God Hand like he wants. Even he's gotten this far on it, but strength alone is not going to bring his happiness back. And this is a larger thematic talk for the entire series on how does Guts become happy again? Can he become happy again? And all that stuff. But this is selectively in this first chapter, the hand cannon structural stuff with hiding it at the beginning and then bringing it back at the end, I like a lot. And then this is actually something I only noticed this time through, is the hand cannon repeatedly being his trump card, how he wins every fight, how he gets out of every situation, but he can't get out of his Femto situation with it. And that gives that much more, because that moment is really cool, of like, he's getting dragged into hell by all these demon things that just got the count, and he's not concerned about firing on them. He wants to fire on Femto because he's so absorbed with his fucking vengeance, and that's kind of cool. But then Femto doesn't even blink. He just uses his magical fucking voodoo powers and he creates a force field, and it's like, man, we really are on. This is a fucking. I was gonna make a Naruto. This is a Kage level versus a Genin. Strong boy versus a weak boy, Bacon. You understand?
Yeah.
They're on different tiers. Also, the Snake Baron, as he's dying, he puts his hand up, and it kind of looks like it could be the thing from the intro in the 97 thingy. So, but there is also a page in one of the first Golden Age arcs that is the intro from the. You've seen the 97 anime, or you know what I'm talking about, right?
No,
the
I
hand
don't
with the
think
veil
so.
lid on it.
I don't think so. I've seen.
There's no way you haven't seen this before. But the image, not even the anime. I feel
so
like
when they're holding it in his fingers.
Yeah.
The Bayless
fingers. The Snake Baron thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I don't want to die. He's crying and stuff.
Okay. Let me.
But yes.
Oh yeah.
Like,
so his hands kind of up, and
yeah.
So it's like the Shabe's title for one of his Berserk.
Yes, the thumbnail. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Though it will very explicitly be a title chapter page in one of the first Golden Age ones.
Yes.
So, might derive from this, but yes, we'll also get the sword thing. What is a sword? And it's the cool shot of Guts with the sword. We got some interesting stuff to read moving forward, Bacon. But we talked about the hand cannon stuff. Not head cannon, hand cannon. We talked about never being scared for Guts, relating it to the Levi thing, scared for the people around Guts, big tension. I just on that point, it also puts you in the position of Guts, because you like Guts, you know he's going to survive, but you watch horrible things happen to the people around him, and it makes you very sad, you relate to his pain and stuff.
Can I make one note with regards to Levi? I think one thing that makes Levi a little different, though, is that the fact that Levi does get hurt and just out of the story. Because he's not the main protagonist, so sometimes, it still feels like he, like to me, like it was so interesting hearing people talk about the Beast Titan versus Levi fight, because to me, I had no idea what the outcome would be but then when I watched, I was like, I wasn't like, oh wow, that was so easy. Like that wasn't my like feeling towards it. I guess like I don't know why, but like I remember you talking about it, like wow, it's like oh no way, like it's almost like undercutting the moment where you're like wow, Levi literally found it that easy. And I think maybe it's because like while Levi found it easy, we already had lost so much. So it's anyway, I mean it's a fantastic arc for a reason, but it's one of those interesting things where I don't know. I never really felt the same way about Levi because Levi does do kind of similar stuff. He just kind of flies away. Like he's not big brainy. He's just flying around and cutting stuff up really quick. You know. I guess to me it always feels like if he gets caught, he can be a goner. Like he just needs to not get caught. Well, Guts like, dude, he's literally got the best defense stats in the game. Or he's got the most health stats, maybe. You know, like he's like a Chansey. You know, like he may not have the highest defense stats. He's taking a lot of damage, but he just can take a lot of damage because
Chansey has terrible physical defense.
Yeah,
Bacon.
true.
She's got big special defense.
Oh, does
Get your
she?
Pokemon
Oh.
analogies.
Oh, I thought she had like bad
maybe a
defense
Shuckle.
both. No. I was no.
Well,
I chose Chansey because she had okay defense, but the highest health. That's what I was thinking. Not Shuckle. Shuckle's.
Well, no. Chansey also has massive special defense.
Oh, does it? Okay.
I'm googling it now just to make sure I'm not correcting your Pokemon facts with the wrong Pokemon facts.
Yeah.
No, click on the fucking thing.
Don't want to misinform our viewers.
Yes, massive. Well, it's not that big. It's 105, but its defense is 5. Literally the worst in the game.
Really?
So,
I thought it was like 60. Oh, it was 250. Is it? Is it horrible? 255.
250 health. Yeah.
Wow.
250 health, a 105 special defense. The rest of his stuff terrible. But yeah. Anyway, Chansey Lamau. Oh, I had a great segue, but I forgot.
Levi hurting himself.
No, I think I was done with the Levi point. I think it was going to go some other direction. We're on the context. We're on the context. We're on the concept. We're talking about Guts.
Yeah.
Guts' introduction here throughout this whole arc it's very interesting as a protagonist because he is very much a non-audience surrogate protagonist here, and Puck plays the role very much of audience surrogate, but he is not the main character. Obviously, there's Guts. Now, Puck does have his own scenes, especially in the count arc where he's separated when he's hanging out with Teresa and flying around and stuff. Great Puck stuff. We love Puck here. Puck is probably the best character in this self-contained arc, but a lot of the Guts stuff is set up for like, ooh, how did he become this way? I want to know. But Guts as a non-audience surrogate does kneecap the Guts characterization a little bit, because I feel like a lot of people, maybe I've even heard you say this before, Bacon, about Guts sort of being boring or not very interesting in this in the Black Swordsman Arc, and it takes the Golden Age to make him the greatest protagonist that ever existed. Bacon. I can see the YouTube thumbnails now. But yeah, so it is a very interesting approach, and I do like it as sort of an interesting, different approach of sort of like. You get these little hints of like more depth to him, but it's very ambiguous, and this will be explored later, obviously, as we get more context. But you wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah,
well, you were trying to get in.
Yeah, I wasn't really responding to what you were saying, but I just had a question about Puck. Is Puck? I'm gonna do the Berserk reference before something else. Is Puck a reference to Shakespeare's A Midsummer's Night Dream? Because there's literally a character. I've always thought about this, but I just remembered it now.
Casca is in a Shakespeare thing too, in the Caesar one, but it's a dude.
Interesting.
But I don't know. It might be because I don't know anything about A Midsummer's Night Dream. I know about Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
And Macbeth. Those are the two I did.
A Midsummer's Night Dream is a comedy and not anime. I was about to say anime. Shakespeare comedy anime. No, it's a comedy play, and I think from what I remember, it's like a guy's head gets turned into a donkey, and he's a famous aristocrat basically, and he's like, oh no, he gets turned into a donkey head and they have to solve it or something like that. But there's a character who's quite prominent called Puck, and they're a fairy. And I always thought this. I actually remember them being called
it has to be then. If it's a fucking fairy, I thought it was going to be some bloke that was telling jokes.
No. Yeah. Based
Maybe,
on the
I would
Puck.
say...
Hold up. There's based on the Puck of English and English mythology. So there's a character there's a fairy called Puck in English mythology. Oh, that's very interesting.
So they're both referencing something else.
Yeah, so it's
like how It's the
Okay.
Devilman thing. Ava's not referencing Berserk. Berserk's not referencing Ava. They're both referencing Devilman. That's what we just learned here.
Yeah.
But instead, it's English history. Puck Fairy.
Okay, let me read this.
Quickly Google this.
Puck.
Oh yeah, folklore.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay. Puck is also known to be inherently solitary pucks. That's what they're called. They're called pucks. Okay, so it's not a character, but Puck is a puck, or a reference to pucks. Interesting.
Well, I think I've got a specific fellow here that says in English folklore, Puck, sometimes known as Robin Goodfellow, is a domestic and nature spirit, demon, or fairy.
Here we go. So in cultural references under the 20th century, it says the manga series Berserk, written and illustrated by Mura, set in the world of features a character named Puck, who resembles a small fairy or pixie-like creature, although he is technically an elf. So,
yes, that's right. He's an elf, not a fairy, Lamau. But yeah, it's still a reference.
Okay, so if you go to fascinating. Okay, I should have looked into this earlier. I should have, but yeah, I think anyway. But I think one probably difference between Puck and Midsummer's Night Dream is that he's a bit more of a trickster, a bit more of a goofy guy.
Well, Puck kind of becomes that a little bit.
Yeah. Puck does kind of become that. So I think that's interesting. Okay, so yeah. For
Just
once, Berserk is the one referencing previous material. Who could have believed it?
Yes.
Berserk
not probably references
the original creation of Kentaro Miura's brain.
Yes. There's a bunch of Devilman stuff too, Bacon, but I'll point those out as they progress.
For sure.
They're kind of in here, but
that's like, yeah.
Me and Ari are gonna do one for it. Bacon, you want to join?
Maybe.
It's just gonna be one video. We're gonna read the 5 volumes.
Oh, okay.
You can get in.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's only short. It's 5 fucking volumes. Yeah. Anyway, stick tuned for that. Just on Shakespeare and Berserk, I googled Casca Shakespeare. Casca is a character in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. He is one of the senators who participates in the assassination of Caesar. Is Griffith our Caesar? Also, Griffith is literally Macbeth, Lamau, ambition, Lamau. So all of this is just a big Shakespeare reference. That's why me and Ari on movie night are going to go through Shakespeare things.
That makes sense.
Other characters in the play, including the other conspirators, generally regard him with disdain. We love Casca. Fuck you. He is considered to be a foolish man and a follower rather than a leader. Casca do be following,
but she definitely becomes
she also be leading.
I don't think this. Yeah. The character. I think it's merely just the name similarity.
But I've never heard Casca in anything else before.
Well, yeah, I know.
And I remember in grade 12 English class, somebody was it came up that Casca was a character in Julius Caesar, and I was like, "Who?" There was actually a girl next to me who had also seen Berserk, and we laughed about it. Bacon.
Is this the girl that's from your Black Lagoon video?
The Black Lagoon video. Yes. Shut up. We're moving on. Because if you Google Casca, it just comes up with our Casca.
Interesting.
Hold on, Publius Severus Casca. Oh no, this is the assassin dude.
Well, there's Lucius Castus. Oh, Castus. I mean, it's kind of Artorius. It's kind of similar Roman names like that.
Yeah.
But it could be something like if we are seeing a lot of Shakespearean influence, it could be just like, oh, this is a cool name. I'm just going to call the character that.
Yeah.
And then you just stick with
Hold
it.
On, I just found something.
Okay.
You know how each one of the God Hands, except for Femto, is named after a science fiction book? Did you know that, Bacon?
I did not know that, no.
Void is a fucking thingy. Conrad is a fucking thingy. Ubik. These are all names of famous science fiction novels from like the early 1900s or 1800s.
Oh, wow.
And I've just Googled. Casca is a series of historical fantasy novels created by author Barry Sadler in so this might be where it's from because it's a book, you see, Bacon. It's all connected.
Yeah.
Actually, I have no idea.
Very interesting.
He's the Roman Legion. It's another Roman bloke. So maybe Casca is a Roman name.
Yeah.
Casca is cursed with immortality. That doesn't really fit. Wander the earth aimlessly, always as a soldier until the second coming. You know about this Jesus stuff. The character is loosely based on Longinus, legend of Christianity. Do you know Longinus?
So there's the Spear of Longinus, which is the one that's, I mean, this is not really biblical stuff, so I don't know as well. It's more of, I guess, Christian and probably Jewish folklore and legend. No, it'll be just Christian, not Jewish. It's the spear that was used to pierce Jesus' side to make sure he's dead on the cross. So what the Romans did,
Like,
basically, to make sure guys.
Casca is going to pierce Femto because the Moonlight Child loves Casca. It's all coming
No
together.
way. Yeah,
But,
but yeah. So it's in Ava, the spirit of Longinus.
Oh, it's Longinus, like
Longinus. Yeah.
Longinus.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So
I love Evangelion.
yeah.
I know everything. Christian mythology through Evangelion.
Yeah, and Kabbalah, even though it uses Jewish symbolism as well. Anyway,
there's no way I'm doing timestamps for this fucking video, by the way.
it's gonna be a nightmare.
But yes.
But
we were googling names and stuff. That was fun.
Yeah, that was good fun. Good bit of education. I like that. Also femto. You may not know this, but femto is
measurement.
Yes, it's a prefix for a certain. I think it's 10 to the minus 15. So you know how you can have everything has like you have grams, meters, but you also have kilometers or kilograms. You also have kilobytes.
Femtograms.
Yeah, so femto is it's femtometers, femtograms, femtobytes, femto any SI unit, femtoseconds. Femtoseconds is probably the most one I've heard. Is 10 to the minus 15, so right. It's 0.15 zeros and then another thing, I think, roughly, or 14 zeros and then whatever.
You think that has something to do with his power? How he's always shrinking shit down to a femtometer? Maybe. Remember when he shrinks that stuff down? It might be. I don't know.
Maybe he's just saying he's a real small.
He's a small bitch. Am I going to beat him up?
Exactly. We're going to beat him up.
We're putting it all together today, Bacon. Let us write the rest.
Man. I will say.
Whoa, what were we?
Yeah.
Keep going.
What? Maybe are we going to transition on to the second chapter because I feel like there's.
Well, I still have a few notes written down.
Okay. Yeah.
But I got some things to say about this chapter before we move on. Just quickly. Oh, Guts is an audience surrogate character. I don't think I got through this point.
Yeah.
But it creates a mystery around him. A lot of the intrigue is like, how did he get like this? What happened in his past? Because there are very much references to his past. They're made sort of immediately. How did he get this brand? Puck feels his emotions, and Puck is always very clear to say that it's like fear, anger, and sadness. So like the macho dudes that really like Guts because he fucks shit up or whatever and is a toxically masculine bloke. He's always sad and scared. And there's always, at least in every one of the fights when he's getting beaten up, there's always like a defeated Guts face where he just looks terrified, which gives him a little bit of depth. He's not just killing everything and bad walking away. He usually does do the badass walk away. And as we do get in the final page of chapter 1, we do get Guts, Puck turning back and saying Berserk, which I remember seeing on the second time through and being like, there's no way this is real, because I'd completely forgotten about it. And it is a funny meme, title drop Lamau line.
But how many times have they title dropped? Like, you know, like they probably haven't said Berserk again, really, have they?
Well, the Berserker armor is the only other one, but yeah.
Oh, of course, the Berserker armor.
But I don't think they ever say Berserk outside of that. Imagine a Japanese bloke coming up with the name Berserk. It is a cool name. What a word Berserk is. But yes, Guts is a non-audience surrogate. Oh, and I was going to say a lot of mystery is also created at the end when he's like, where are the God Hand? And it's sort of like, it's like Naruto mentioning the Hokage or something at the end of the first chapter. It's like, oh, this is where we're going, I guess. This is the narrative of the story. The big bads are being lightly mentioned. Even though Naruto, I'm pretty sure on the very first page says that he wants to be Hokage.
Yeah. I think for me, Guts to me is not like... Generally, in this state, he's not a very compelling character, but the best parts about it, the things that do get me like interested in him, or just I guess more interested in the story overall, is when the fetus thing turns up. I don't know what it's actually called, but like in his
demon
cage,
baby fetus,
the demon baby fetus or whatever. It just turns up, and you're like, okay, what's that? That's like otherworldly, and that seems to spark a reaction out of Guts. And that's like when you see him break that mask, that's like the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when you see it like this kind of built upon again in chapter 2, it builds up this like this line of, okay, what is this? What is this? And you don't really get an answer for it. And then I just remember, I remember completely forgetting about it. And maybe it comes up more after the Golden Age again. But like, it's one of those things that like it is used effectively for this early part to kind of get you questioning and more engaged because you're like, okay, this is interesting.
Yes. It definitely comes back. I like in very big ways, Bacon. You might have
Okay,
forgotten.
I've probably
Um,
forgotten then. So,
it's it's the Moonlight Child, Bacon.
oh
What do you?
no, I know that, but like I don't. But it feels like, at least from what I remember, it like here it's appearing every single story beat, and I'm not sure if it does that later on. And you keep
Yeah,
like
it
if
does
it,
until it's merged into Griffith. It does because it warns
okay,
Guts that Casca has gone missing and everything. Because it ends up stalking. A big thing is like, and something I feel like I forget every time I read through is in the count stuff when it ends up having Vargas's face. But we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
oh
Um,
yeah,
the oh fuck, I had something to say about something you said, and it was going to be a super interesting point and tie into one of the dot points I had, but I forgot it completely. Ah, Bacon, don't you love it when this happens?
it happens pretty
Um,
often, dude. When you get
it
Alzheimer's,
with
too many
me, it
Vargas
happens
stories.
constantly. I still got two other dot points though. Oh fuck. Give me 5 seconds, and if I don't figure it out, we're gonna move on. Uh, child, demon, fetus, guts. Oh, I think I remember it, and I think it was completely different. It had nothing to do with anything you were saying. I wanted to say a little bit more about the structure because we were talking about
Hmm.
they leave Mura leaves the cannon blast for the end. Also, as Guts is initially walking into the castle, he looks back and notices like the cage of children and women being taken to the Snake Baron to be eaten.
Yeah.
And he notices and realizes what's going on because obviously he's got some sort of intel that the Snake Baron hangs out here somehow, and that's why he's come here. Um, and then we cut inside a Puck, and we get Puck's cool introduction. But that was just a minor structural point. Now, quickly, I think I might be able to wrap up my things. I just wrote down the Snake Baron is the evilest dude to ever evil because he literally has like a child on like cut in half as he drinks its blood. Because you had mentioned earlier that actually the edginess stuff didn't really irk you out or anything, where I feel like a lot of people like the Black Swordsman Arc is needlessly edgy. And this sort of ties into the first page and the demon sex scene. I remember even when I was like 17 reading Berserk for the first time, I even thought it was a little much, and I should have been at my peak edginess back then and thought it was fucking sick. Uh, but I probably like it now more than I did back then. But
Mm.
yeah, it's fine. I like the edginess. Um, and then my last point was nope, balls deep in demon and balls deep in demon and evilest dude to ever evil. It does make I guess the Snake Baron gets a tiny bit of characterization when he starts crying at the end when he's getting killed and stuff, and it sort of gets into the larger point as we'll learn as to how humans become apostles, is that these apostles are deep down inside still weak humans, and to be an apostle you have to be sort of the weakest type of human who has lost everything and turns to the dark side almost.
Hmm.
And this usually comes out when they're uh, uh, getting stomped on by Guts. Um, but other than that, I think that might be everything I had to mention about the first chapter. There's a particularly cool art double spread of like soldiers running away from soldiers on
Yeah,
like cavalry
that was
soldiers.
probably the best bit.
Um,
Maybe not
oh,
the
and
best,
Guts
but
coming out of
the
the
corpses.
pile of bodies. One
That's
of
cool.
them, yeah. Oh, and we also get the beginning of the motif of the blacked out face, one eye,
Hmm.
because Guts has one eye, Bacon. You see. Um,
I see.
I tried to connect that to a thematic beat. I guess it might be when somebody's feeling vengeful that happens because it happens with a lot of the characters. I feel like it happens with every God Hand member. It happens with the Count. I think even Zondark gets one. Um, and I feel like later more characters get them too.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know. I couldn't
Yeah.
really connect specifically what the if there was one thematic beat for the darked out face one eye thingy, because it
Yeah.
is continued I think in like the whole manga. So
Hmm. I,
um,
I think one thing I'd like to maybe comment on with, like for me, when the Snake Baron was getting killed, like I just thought he was really pathetic, and in some way
yeah,
it did offer that that typical catharsis that you get from beating a
Yeah.
big villain and seeing them cry and whimper. But it did. I guess it didn't. Yeah, he's just not the most compelling overall. One interesting thing I will say though is that, and I think it's just to do with the technology and the type of scanning that they had at the time, but the art, the paneling's interesting, engaging. The art is of course good, but I don't actually think I like it that much. It's weird to say.
Just at the beginning or
Just at the beginning,
overall?
I maybe my thoughts will change as we go through, because I know I definitely like the Berserk art now, particularly that's digital, which may be a controversial opinion. But
One I agree with, by the way.
yeah, I mean, I think definitely the art has gotten better, like in a in a in a technical aspect. But I think just in generally, like I don't think the character designs, like the clothing, looks really awkward to me. I don't think I've ever really liked the armor in Berserk. Like I just don't think I like the style as much. So you see like Guts in our amazing picture here on the screen, folks. He's that's I think that's really cool. I really like that. Because I think the cape's covering up most of his clothes. He's got this weird crotch guard, which is probably accurate, but to me it just looks awkward. And think lots of the character designs just kind of look like that. Like the eyes are like too big. Like I know Puck's meant to be cute and all, but like the female characters, like I don't like how they're drawn. Like it's interesting because they are definitely like you can look at the, but also like the double, like the action I don't think is like in this first chapter at least, you see the guy, he splits him in half to save Puck, like at the beginning, the reveal of the sword, and the blood just, like, to me, I just don't think the blood looks good. I'm being, of course the art, is very, 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 very impressive. I want to make this very clear, because I know lots of people will be like, oh, even if you don't think Berserk is good, or like as a story, you have to admit like this guy's art is gallery level, and it's insane. And no, without a doubt, that's true. But it's just something about the style that I just don't really like.
Hmm.
And I think he gets better at this. I think also the faces look a little flat. I think there's something that Yukimura's gotten better as well. Like when you look at them now, the characters' faces literally look like, to me, they just look like they pop out of the screen. Like I can almost touch them and grab them, and they feel like they have so much volume to them. Here, lots of the time it does, but other times it does look a little flat and cartoony in my opinion. So it's interesting.
There,
Yeah.
I will say, for most of that, I was like, "What the fuck is this bacon idiot talking about? What an idiot!" But there is a face that Guts does a lot in this early part where he sort of scrunches his face, and it's very angular. That I did catch on and was like, "That's a little weird." I don't know. Guts is also skinnier than he probably should be at the beginning here. Now, if you want to read the prototype, he's way skinnier in that too.
Yeah.
Obviously, Guts is a mammoth of a human being, and it actually is a plot point later that he starts to get skinnier. So I guess that from a
Interesting.
consistency
Okay.
standpoint could be uh, uh, a little worse. But other than that, I think it all looks sick, Bacon. Um, Even the blood stuff, I was like, what does the blood look like in this double spread? But I don't know, I like it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Like
yeah,
yeah, like for me, I think it's almost over detailed. I think there is not enough, like to me. I can still tell like I'm like someone's getting new to like their inefficiency in line strokes to me to communicate what they're trying to do. It just shows like the guy is still learning, which I think is very safe to say. But if you I think like I'm reading 20th Century Boys, so Urarasa, he also did Urasawa, I think. Sorry, I can't remember how you say his
yeah,
name, but if you look at any of his work, he did Monster, 20th Century Boys, Pluto. If you look at any of his work, like the economy of line he has when he draws something is probably some of the highest in any manga, right? Like every single line he has like conveys so much, and he just does it with so little detail. But he's able to nail a character, nail an emotion, nail like how something looks. And I could see someone going to that and be like, "Oh, dude, I just don't really like the style," but I love the Berserk style. And that maybe is just where I'm at here. So you can definitely appreciate like there's something very impressive. Like even in the second chapter, you see this, I know we're kind of jumping ahead a bit, but you see like you have this amazing just page of like interesting panels and where Guts is in his dream and this eye is peering down on him and he's like enclosed by this corridor, which has like incredibly, interesting lit and detailed bricks. But to me, the lines, yeah, the lines are all just like the same opacity, and to me that I don't know, it's just something about the style that I'm just not like naturally drawn towards. I think that's the best way to put it, but it's still very impressive nevertheless. And I think that's something that I've actually probably more impressed with on the second time reading is the paneling that Berserk does. It is
Yeah,
very
I
dynamic
wrote
and very
down the
interesting. So
paneling as you were talking. Yeah, it is. He chocks so much onto screen sometimes. Um, just quickly on the art front, I think in because obviously there's an improvement in detail,
mm-hmm.
and you said it was already too detailed in some parts, which I kind of get what you mean. A lot of the exteriors of castles look a little plain, especially in what we'll end up getting with like what Doldry ends up looking like, and even further. Obviously, there's castles all throughout Berserk. It's not just a Golden Age thing. But sometimes they look plain. I think what I appreciate most about the art is actually the framing in shots.
Mm-hmm.
This especially like the standout example for this is at the end when the Count's like body is like sloped in the open sky, and the moon is like coming down, and he's dead at this point, and like Teresa is framed in front of it, and there's just a lot of the imagery. This is like the last scene of the entire arc. I feel like the framing inside the panels of sort of where things are situated and how it all lines up is really good. Um, just to chalk in all of our art opinions all at once here, I guess.
I think.
But there certainly is. Go ahead.
Well, I definitely think there's some really good framing. Like you can see how he likes to draw the sword, but for me, the impact is. I don't know why, but I just never felt the impact of this. I feel like I've always had a bit of a criticism, and I do wonder if rereading this, but Berserk's action I always found weirdly hard to follow. But I think that may be partly to do with how I'm reading it. But actually, to build on how he's, you can always see stuff going inside the panels, and he's clearly like experimenting with different sides of the character, but the character drawing is a little inconsistent, and I think he gets way better at that as we go on. So it does feel like some of the proportions are a little off and stuff. But in terms of the framing, there's this in the first chapter because we're still kind of on it. There's this when the Baron's on this horse and the horse is kind of leaping over and you can see it almost encircling Guts a little bit. He's like saying it's pure folly.
Yeah.
Just as Guts is shooting stuff at him. So
Yeah.
there is clearly without a doubt there's clearly skill. I'm not I'm not saying
There's a lot of
it's bad.
there's a lot of shadow too.
Yeah, I think
which he likes. Obviously, we talked about the black faced one eye thingy. There's also long rectangular shots that he uses them a lot at the beginning, and then he seemed to have fallen back in love with them at the very end. Because there's like this very long rectangular shot of like Guts and the Snake Baron looking at each other. This is before he's transformed. Like it doesn't have a page number, so I can't point people to it. But there's a very similar page, but it's actually a panel rather, but it's actually of the Snake Baron transformed. In one of the very last chapters he did, it's the one of Griffith having like the meeting in Falconia with all the nobles. And we get like a flash of Guts fighting the Snake Baron as a little callback. And it's also on a very thin like corridor panel, which I think is really good. But the paneling is very different. I remember comparing the Attack on Titan paneling and sort of how boxy it is at the beginning to just how crazy and angular like all of the panels are. I think this is even something you and Ari talked about with Villain Saga about how Yukimori didn't experiment too much with paneling and stuff like that.
Yukimori's panels are and like I get like it's very very simple. They very rare. I mean, actually, I was looking at in Planetes. You can see him experimenting way more than he doesn't like. His is almost always square. It always has the right angles. But for Yukimura, I think generally it almost gives a bit like to me almost gives it makes it feel less like a manga in a good way where it kind of makes it feel a little bit more realistic. I mean, there's pros and cons to each, right? But Yukimura also is
style.
Yeah, he's strong like Mura is with the direction inside the panel. Like how is he using the camera to move around and taking up a shot of someone else and gestures and facial expressions and So while the paneling may have be not very similar, both artists are very similar in how they
Yeah.
like to go for varied shots of their characters and around and small expressions as well. So yeah, no, definitely very interesting.
It's sick. Well, that might be our big art section. Um, I think we're done with chapter 1, right,
Yeah.
Bacon? Not much more we can say. I guess we didn't talk about Puck too much, but whatever. We'll bring him up more as we get into more things. Chapter 2. I feel like we talked about a lot of general things just now. First of all, if we're still talking about art, I like a lot of the nature shots in chapter 2.
Yeah.
I guess structurally, chapter 1 is more so like introducing Guts and I guess Puck, and then I wrote this in the 10,000 word script. And then chapter 2 is more about introducing Guts' day-to-day life and sort of the world he lives in. We get the exposition about what the brand actually does now, that he's haunted every night and he can't sleep in the nighttime and things like that. And also we get introduced to the incubi or whatever they're called, the little succubus created by cum, feeds on human fear dream thingy. I'm not making the cum thing up, Bacon. It says it's made from sexual fluids, which I mean, technically, aren't we all just made of sexual fluids?
That is true.
But yes, but we're not little octopus succubus thingies.
No.
In terms of an emotional hook, I guess this is another, because again, if we're going with the Berserk is just the Black Swordsman Arc is just needlessly edgy. We've got the little girl gets killed, decapitates the father after it gets possessed type thing. But I do think Chloette here, bet you didn't remember her name, Bacon, shame on you. I don't remember their father's name. Actually, is it grandfather or uncle? I don't remember. I think it might just be father. Probably grandfather. This prick's old. But
He's
Chloette
priest,
here is
right?
cute.
So I guess he's a
Yes,
father.
he's a priest. Yes, you're not supposed to have kids if you're a priest or whatever. Oh, yeah, I just got what you said, Bacon. Very fun.
I know.
I guess this chapter more so than chapter 1 sort of exists in this character interaction space of like Guts initially throws Puck away. Puck has doing comedy around Guts. I love the unrelenting comedy around horrible things happening. This happens more in the count arc where Puck will make a joke after something terrible just happened and something that he's mad about just happening. And I love the abrasiveness to switch between tones because I hate it when people criticize tonal whiplash. And I feel like I've heard you do it before, Bacon, and I'm calling you out right now. Again, it's count stuff.
I think it works here. I mean, yeah, tonal whiplash, is as with many things with writing, it's amoral. It's neither good nor bad. It just depends on the situation.
Yes, it's up to interpretation. You know that word? I know that word.
It's up to how you feel when you read it mostly.
Yes.
But yeah, I think for this one it is. With this chapter, no, it's definitely got that, like it ramps up. Like I think this is one thing.
More of an emotional hook.
Yeah, I think actually when we initially read it, when I read it about 7 months ago, I actually only read the Snake Baron chapter because to me that almost encapsulates my entire. I completely forgot about this chapter. I was like, oh wait, yeah, this is a story. I forgot about this story. And the Snake Baron, like to me, I'm like, that's what I think of when I think Black Swordsman Arc, which is kind of weird because like. You probably think more about the Count and like him going seeing the God Hand and all that. But anyway, but here's like it's nice to see, you come in and then you see like two people that are being really nice to him. And it's almost like a change of pace. You're like, okay, he's been fighting for his life. And he's so alone. It's nice to see other humans just chilling out, and it gives this nice breath of fresh air. And you're happy about it, but then you're also like. Then it can take it away. Also, there's interesting. I want to ask you about this. Maybe for future things. There's also a white bird at the beginning of the chapter. Is that the white hawk or whatever? Is that I'm not sure. Is it? Was it
I
what
don't
Puck is
think we're
watching?
doing that yet.
Okay.
But yes, Puck will ride a blackbird later and he'll
Mm,
fight with a crow in the Lost Children arc. So I don't know if that's a parallel.
mm,
I don't know. I just like the white bird generally is supposed to be like a good thing, and maybe thematically Griffith is like the false white bird and Guts is the real white bird come to save the day, or the white falcon or whatever. That's why his hair is turning white and stuff like that. So there are thematic things potentially to read in there. But it might all be derived out of like this simple symbolism of like the white bird is good.
mm.
And Puck's like Guts' savior here is
Like the
the light of
dove.
his life.
The dove is
Yeah,
image of the Holy Spirit and God
yeah,
and
yeah.
divinity. Okay,
That's probably
interesting.
where it comes from. But I just wrote down flip because I wanted to say something, but I don't know what I could have meant by flip. Um,
Is it
Fuck me.
like I was talking about with like Guts funny, getting a bit of relief?
Oh, no, I remember Bacon. It
Cool.
flipped it, and I just thought about this thing now. Because in the first chapter, Puck is the exception in like a sea of terrible people who Guts fits into,
Mm.
whereas in this chapter it's swapped, and Puck is not the exception, Guts
Ah,
is because
true.
these people are nice.
Yeah.
Um, because I think I mentioned this briefly, but then I didn't follow through. I like that Puck is separated from Guts, and he sort of has this continuous, well, fuck this prick, I'm going a different direction, and they always end up back together.
Mhm.
Um, I do, and in that 10,000 word script, one of the big thematic points was like Puck is Guts's savior. He like saves him from everything and helps him get back on the right path. And it sort of is his guiding light, literally. Um, I really do like, and I hope I like it as much when we get to it. The moment after I think Rosine is dead, and Guts says Puck for the first time, because that's built up throughout this arc, but isn't blown off, because he just calls him like Bug or whatever, and
Mhm.
never actually acknowledges him. And when Puck sees him crying at the very end, he shoos him away, and they don't have their moment. So when he finally calls him Puck, we're gonna get the soy boy chills, Bacon. Make sure you keep
Rosine.
that in
When you
mind.
say Rosine, do you mean Tressa? What's Teresa, or is that different?
No, Rosine, I mean, is the fairy. This is after the Golden Age, because
Oh
he
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. Rosine is the okay, okay, yeah. Rosine is
Yeah, the
yeah,
fairy.
yeah. That's what I was
Oh,
thinking. Sorry. Yeah, I thought. Anyway, I
yeah,
was getting confused with the names already.
don't worry, Bacon. You'll get them all down. Um, the little character interaction stuff. So Puck being funny, like him pulling a face when
We
when
got a
the
little
priest is like,
fairy.
"You can't hurt us. We got a lucky spirit," and Puck pops up and he's pulling a face.
To,
Colette is very cute. Do you want to jump in, Bacon?
yeah, well, it's interesting. You said, "Don't worry, I've got on my side as a friend," and you're just like, "Well, in an edgy story like this, we know what's gonna happen." You know, like it's one of those
Yeah,
interesting, like oh, God doesn't exist. Kind of. I don't
there
know.
is.
I don't know if that's. But it, I guess it is still edgy nowadays. I wonder if we're transitioning out of being like atheist is edgy. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
feel like this is pre-edgy atheist stuff, though. I think
Um,
Japan was in that shit a little bit. Well, when I think
well,
of
I
edgy
mean,
atheist stuff, I think like 2010.
you
So,
think, well,
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, you're thinking of. I mean, Richard Dawkins. I mean, Richard Dawkins was already writing um,
yeah,
for a few years at this point. I know he's the something Watchman, the Blind Watchman. That's what it's called. Book where the term meme came from. It was from a
yeah.
1985 book. So Dawkins was definitely writing, but yeah, I don't think. Yeah, like it'll be interesting because not to, but Berserk is older than us, so we went around to really experience the culture shift and getting a feel of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely then maybe it was definitely much more countercultural, and because we're looking at it in hindsight, it does feel edgy, even though then it was probably edgy but more fresh than it is now.
Yeah. I don't know if I feel like I don't feel like it's too much of an edgy anti-religious thing yet. I think that definitely is the case with the funny stuff later
Yeah,
on,
for
but I
sure.
feel like it might just be like these are the normal institutions of the world that don't account for sort of the
Hmm.
evil merging of worlds that is happening through Guts and the astral plane. It's the Thorfinn thing again in a different context of like this priest doesn't understand what's actually happening here, and we're gonna see his reaction when he figures out that like this isn't like the Bible demons, it's berserk demons that are coming for you or whatever. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
It could be the thing too, but yeah. The interesting thing is about Chloette is sort of the first of the cute girls to be introduced. Teresa is the second one. Then we have Jill
Yeah.
later on. She is the one that gets the worst fate. Well, I guess there's that one in the Golden Age arc that's brutally raped by Wild and then ripped apart.
Oh man,
That'll be a
I
fun
didn't
scene when we
remember that
get to
one.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the most graphic rape of a 14-year-old girl you'll ever see legally. Um, but yeah, so there is a berserk trend of cute girls. I guess we're two from two. Two end horribly, and two, well, I, I hope Jill's doing all right out there. And Teresa, well, I guess Teresa's end's kind of bad too, but nothing specifically happens to her physically, at least. But Berserk does have a cute girl thingy. It is cute that Chloette is clearly crushing on Guts. This is something that also happens. I remember I used to praise Mura about this because I remember seeing some Reddit comments that would call him a pedophile for the Shurike stuff, and not even the Shurike nude scene that does happen, but the fact that Shurike would have any feelings for anybody. And I used to point at my hit out of the park, Bacon, was that nobody bats an eye when a Seadro is trying to fucking perv on the girls, but Shurike is not allowed to like Guts. Because she's in love with Guts, Farnese is. There is a reiteration, and this is actually something that sort of parallels Guts and Griffith, where a lot of the girls like love Griffith, but there are also Guts girls out there that are crushing on him, and it's sort of the positive negative dynamic because all like Casca crushes on Griffith, Charlotte does, and they're sort of being manipulated by Griffith in bad ways, and Guts is sort of, again, Griffith presents like the good guy, but Guts is secretly the actual good guy. We got this parallel going on. Chloette is the first little girl to have a crush on Guts. That was my point.
It'd be interesting to see as we go on through this arc, but to me, like, it doesn't feel like necessarily like if I was to be a bit more cynical and criticize it, which I don't think I necessarily have, I necessarily will, I won't necessarily mean. It's more that, like, to me, instead of being like, I guess, more pedophilic, it's more like it fulfills the same power fantasy of, like, like you're the Sigma male and you're by yourself, and there's a woman out there that will see through your hard exterior and still care for you, or still be attracted to that despite your aloofness or something like that. Like, there is still, like, to me it feels like the girl's just being,
maybe with the Chloette example.
yeah, it's right.
But the
This is
Farnese
just
and Shurike example are connected to very different. Remember when he puts the hat
of
on
course.
Shurike?
Yes, yeah. No, I do remember that panel.
You,
So
yeah.
I'm talking purely about this situation here. Sorry, with
Yeah.
Chloette, my favorite
I
character.
think
by the
she's
way,
just
Chloette.
like, I think it's, I don't know. He hasn't even really done anything Sigma in front of her for her to particularly be attracted to that. I don't know if it's maybe if Guts indulged it at all, it would be a part of the power fantasy. But he sort of is being the stoic protagonist, women, I don't need women type thing. But maybe.
Yeah.
Chloette drops the wine on Puck when Puck wants some wine. That was funny. I was just scrolling past that, Bacon. I had to mention it. So many great Puck gags. I love him.
Yeah. No, it's good. I do like.
There's a bunch of Puck paneling things where he'll like not put it in a panel and just have it at the bottom of a page where it's just Puck's body, which I think is cute too. Sort of have it blend in the background. We do get another demon baby fetus thing. Guts is running around naked. He's scared of something. He gets his foot impaled. That's what it's called, on a spike thing, as a giant baby fetus comes for him. Now, the baby fetus, especially in these visions, is supposed to be like Guts' trauma, obviously. But actually, it's recontextualized a little bit more interesting, where it's sort of like the trauma of his forgotten responsibility. Because I guess this is a key place, I guess, to talk about maybe the overall structure thing. Because the Black Swordsman arc is obviously, or the Black Swordsman period in Guts' life is obviously his lowest point. Probably even lower than the Eclipse, because he himself is sort of self-inflicting it. Whereas the message come the end of Conviction is that he shouldn't have left Casca, that he should have stayed with her and faced the demons together, and shouldn't have left Rickett alone. It's sort of not knowing anything, and that he should have communicated with them and hung out with them, rather than basically go and throw a massive hissy fit, which is what he does as he's trying to kill these apostles. He's got a Puck says this to Vargas, where he's like, "You got to live for the future, not live for the past." We've read Vinland Saga. We know vengeance is bad.
Yeah.
But that's sort of all wrapped in here. But the demon baby fetus is his fucking kid, which is a cool little twist. Well, it's his guts, it's his Griffiths and Casca's kid all mixed together. But yeah, so I do like that overall structure of sort of like this very much fits his guts as his lowest point, and it structurally fits right in. And basically we see how he gets there, and then we see how he gets out of it, and that's sort of the progression of the arc over arc. And not being alone and letting Puck in and then letting more people in, and then he has a family again. Remember that moment after they fight Slan, and he looks back and he says he can't believe he got a family again, Bacon. Oh, what a manga.
I remember these things
to say about
incredibly vaguely.
Yes. We'll color them in as we go. There ends up being a fight. Cloette is impaled. There is a moment of hesitation. I guess this is another big thing throughout the arc, is Guts will have these little moments of humanity bleeding through, and he'll always try to bury it. And Puck will sort of call him out, and this sort of culminates in the Vargas call out, where it's like, where Guts tries to say that he just came to watch Vargas die or something, when clearly he was feeling bad about it. In a scene he has by himself, and then Puck calls him a pussy, and then runs and tries to save Vargas himself, but fails. It's a whole thing, but he has a moment here where he clearly throws up when he has to kill Cloette, and he clearly hesitates when she is taken over and stabs him. And he even has a moment where he doesn't want to get in the cart because he doesn't want to put them in danger, but then he has to think to himself, like, what do I care about these people, or whatever. Exactly. So then he gets in. But it's like a sort of his inherent goodness sort of comes out, and then he beats it back, and then it sort of reappears again because he can't repress it too much. But then this also brings into interesting thematic ideas of, like, if you're pretending to be this person more than you're actually being your actual self, then which one is the real you? And I think this is one of the opening lines I had in my old script was like, Guts realizing how destructive and self-destructive this sort of Black Swordsman character that he is become is sort of, he's destructive to everything around him and all the people around him, but it's also self-destructive, and it brings him no happiness. And he's basically throwing Casca and Rickett and everybody, and Godo and everybody that he still has, that he still cares about, away by leaving them and abandoning them. And Guts is a bad boy. Black Swordsman is bad. We don't like him. Those are our big overall thoughts, thematic thoughts, I guess. Anything to say on that, Bacon?
I don't have anything to add at all. But I just want to say I do love the Cloette stab, where it is just like, there's so many good framings here where it's like she stabs him caught off guard, but when she's initially stabbed, it's like she's completely blacked out, and you're like, wait, there's no way they just did that. Or you're like, oh no, I like to, and then you just see the final shot of in pure white as he just like cuts her in half, and she like, I kind of think of his sword being used like a baseball bat. You know, like he just kind of slammers, you know, and this kind of he just hit a home run with her torso, you know, like it just feels like there's just it's beautiful paneling.
Yeah, and it's very really sudden. Awesome. Yeah, and the framing and the panels underneath it look like it's almost a double of like a tear with the white streak and then the red streak.
That's true. That's true.
Cute. The texture of the vomit, by the way, kind of wacky.
I don't think I remember this vomit.
It's like the next 2 pages. It's like a few pages after that.
Okay.
It's like a weird texture that comes out of his mouth.
Like, the cool double page?
Yes. Keep scrolling. It's after the baseball bat hit you were just talking about. It's like 2 pages after that.
Is he fighting the zombies still? Oh, yeah.
He takes a break. It's a weird texture. Yeah, you see it.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite as good as the Chainsaw Man vomit. That's for sure. That was.
Oh, I don't remember the Chainsaw Man vomit off the top of my head.
It's when eye patch lady vomits into Denji's mouth when she's drunk.
Oh
So you want to
yes,
kiss?
yeah, when they're kissing.
I haven't watched the
Um,
anime yet, so I'm looking forward to getting the
yeah,
manga.
neither have I. The last page two of and I remember this actually as from the 2016 anime. Of like the long shot of Guts walking, but Puck trailing sort of in the fairy dust behind him. It's very cute.
Yeah, I will say the
But is that
double
all we
page.
have?
Well, talking a bit more on art, like I think the double page spread
Yeah,
of
keep
like
going.
him just going, his eyes fully blacked out, but he's just going in the sea of corpses. I think this is when Mura's style at this point works the best. When he's doing super detailed, gritty like corpses and monsters,
Yeah.
like it works like so much better. I don't know why than like the scaly smoothness that's kind of weird uh, on the snake band. So it just works really well here.
Man, I love the texture of the snake brown skin though.
Do
But
you?
I guess yes.
I don't think
I
I do.
love the single page full shot of him when he comes out. I like it. I think we
No.
split on this
Yeah, we're
art stuff
probably
you're talking
yeah,
about, but yeah.
true.
I do agree that this one looks good though. It is interesting, and it actually, because these are all like long dead soldiers and they are wearing more dated like helmets and stuff.
Oh
And it is
yeah,
interesting when we
you got a Viking
yeah,
helmet
because
there.
it's like
Huh.
he didn't realize, because the forest has obviously grown over this battlefield. It's been so long. But
Oh.
obviously we do get some allusions to the past throughout Berserk, and it's actually iterated on in the movie one time. Because obviously we see Skull Knight's old kingdom, and it
Yeah.
seems more Roman-like than the English sort of Midland setting we have now, even though they exist on the exact same place. And then we sort of get Falconia built on top of it. So there's sort of a building on top of each other of civilizations. And then Mura was also teasing in Falconia that we were going to sprint forward in technological advancements, because Rickett was giving like indoor plumbing and shit. He was fixing that shit for Falconia and stuff. So the passing of time and technology, it seems to be something interesting that Mura was going to play with, and maybe they'll continue to play with as we continue getting Berserk without Mura in very interesting ways. And so seeing the past. Now in the movie, we also get like shots of cavemen fighting as Griffith sort of has his existential crisis in the eclipse. And I love everything about that scene in the movie. So the little teasers of the past and
Mm.
stuff like that, and maybe the timeline of this world is interesting. We do get some interesting world building stuff, though. You really can't piece anything too sizable out of it when we see Vargas's office, and there's sort of interesting little trinkets around everywhere. Sort of see some globes and stuff,
Mm.
and we do see planet Earth, or whatever it's called, in at the very beginning of Fantasia, when we see the light engulf the world and we get the perspective of the moon. Do you remember this, Bacon? It's
I
pretty
think
cool.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, we get one shot from space. It's like, ooh, space exists. And that's something that's also incorporated into that Griffith existential crisis at the end of the third movie, where he zooms out and it's white as people always, and fucking sick, and you see the sun and the moon, and you get the cutting through of the chanting with that one track. These movies are alright.
Mm.
Anything else to say about Chapter 2, The Brand, Bacon?
No.
Alright, we're finally getting to the count stuff. The count stuff is probably the best part of this arc, huh? These fucking last 6 chapters.
Um, I think I actually think I like the second chapter maybe overall more, but there's bits of the count
Ooh.
arc that I like the most, if that makes sense.
Do you dislike the Zondark parts? Is that what you're gonna tell me?
I think it just drags a little bit. Yeah,
I
maybe the
used to think that, but I was like totally engrossed this time. I was like, man,
interesting. Okay.
everything about this is sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, one thing on the art stuff, because we're at the start here. This shaded stuff, I appreciate it, but I also
I think
don't like it. I feel like it was
it's
probably meant to
supposed
be
to be
colored.
colored. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know why
I've
they.
seen colored versions online, but yeah, it's
So
weird that they don't do it in those books you got. Uh,
yeah, so
I kind of appreciate it.
I definitely appreciate
I
it.
remember it distinctly the first time going through and being like, "What is this, like hyper photorealistic, like attempting art stuff?" But yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We
S-
get away from it as
So
we continue.
so because I'm reading
It
Planetess
goes
as
on for a
well.
while here, huh?
Yeah. So what with Planetess, um, it's also done colored, and it's all colored in my books. And honestly, I
Yeah.
think it's some of the best coloring Yukimura has ever done. I've ever seen from him. Like it is so good. It's so like really well done. I was just so impressed with it. and have really brought to life in a different way. And I understand why they don't do it now because it's such an investment of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this yeah, it definitely doesn't. I wonder if you could find it colored somewhere online. But
I feel I've definitely seen all of these colored in before. I assume they were official. They could not have been. No, I'm pretty sure I saw like a big collection. I actually bookmarked a Twitter account that had posted all of the double page spreads without the
oh
white
yeah,
line.
the classic. I should probably have a look at that
So if we
for
ever want to
later
use those for
backgrounds. Yeah.
thumbnails or something, yeah. But yeah. Where do we jump into here? I guess we should probably talk about the characters we really haven't talked about too much because we've kind of talked about Guts and Puck overall a little bit. So obviously, we get Mura spends more time here. We got 6 whole chapters on this one little thing. They're pretty long chapters. It's the bulk of this arc. I think it's the tease of the sort of complexity Berserk will eventually embody more directly.
It's
We've got
definitely
the
building
Count, we've
up.
got Teresa, we got Vargas, we got the old man, who is poor old man, but he's also a creepy old man, so fuck him. I forget his name though. But jump in, Bacon.
Yeah, so I mean, so I definitely think this is like building up in terms of quality, and it's interesting how fast it gets into it. It's like, okay, so first chapter by the books, nothing too compelling, but the second chapter gets a much more strong, at least for me, emotional whammo there. And then this final arc is like, okay, here's what we do with a more complicated plot, and so
Yeah.
is leading you down the path of hey, like this is gonna be good. I'm a good writer. I'm very competent. You can trust me, and it's building confidence in me and as the reader to like want to keep on reading. Yeah, and there's a lot of cool
It
stuff
really,
that I've forgotten, like small bits. But yeah, you said what you're gonna do.
yeah. There are a lot of build up because it is like it potentially is teasing being the Snake Baron again, but then it has the final twist at the end with the introduction of the God Hand, and it just like propels it into the stratosphere of like the intrigue levels are off the fucking chart here.
Yeah,
Just a
for sure.
tiny detail. There's a dragon that seems to be the Count's symbol. Now, in terms of world building, and these some of the things that don't really fit. The fact that Casca didn't seem to have been a thing doesn't fit. Femto's behavior doesn't seem to have fit. Some of the world building things don't seem to have fit, but they might. Because the Count here mentions, because the Count is a position, because at some point Griffith will become a Count. So the Count is his name, but that's what they call him. I don't think we ever get his actual
Do you know
name.
what a count is?
I assumed it was just a feudal bloke who was like
Feudal
above,
title.
he's some sort of a lord. But what is it?
So a count is a person who's in charge of a county. And in the UK we have loads of counties. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of
Yes,
counties
America
before.
has counties too.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes sense.
I mean, you'd also used to have duchies, which are what dukes are in charge of. I don't think
The
anybody has
Duke of
duchy.
Edinburgh, that's a fella.
Yeah,
I hear
yeah.
that said a bunch.
It's the same thing as a duke, basically, or a lord. I don't know if there's probably a technical difference. I mean, other than just them being names, maybe there's something more to it. But counties still exist, I guess. So he's a count. So he's in charge.
Yeah,
Of
I wonder what
county.
county Griffith had then. What a
Then you
what a
have a
bloke.
countess. A countess is like lord to lady, or
Not a
duke to
girl.
duchess.
Yeah,
So yeah.
but yeah. Oh, but also he mentions the king, and he mentions now sometimes they call the Count His Excellency, but they also mention His Excellency as in like the Pope.
Yeah.
Which obviously these are two things. We will meet the King of Midland, assuming they are in Midland, which they all seem like white fellas, but all of the Tudor people seem like white people too. So,
Yeah, true.
And Midland, I guess we just assume that it's supposed to be England because they're both lands, Lamau. But Ireland's also a land, but they ain't speaking Irish and they don't have red hair, so we ain't in Ireland, Bacon.
I think it's safe to say it's probably British Isles in some regard, or European for sure. It's probably
though
Western
it's
European.
not it's almost certainly not an island because the Kushans, who are supposed to be Indians, well, at least I'm pretty sure they're inspired by Indians. They might be Persians. Do I know the difference? Am I showing my ignorance right now, Bacon? Potentially. I think it's Indians though. The Kushans are based off. Anyway, they come over by land. so it can't be. It's Europe, but imagine if England was connected, I guess, and near. They also mention the Far East a lot as sort of mystic, like, the Baelite was originally found in the Far East, and then it comes out. So there are these little world-building things in this mini arc inside of the arc too. But that does fit. If we are in Midland, then we got a fucking king. The king. Oh my God, Bacon! I've forgotten the king's name. But he would still be king at this point. Griffith hasn't come back yet, and Griffith isn't king still in the manga technically. What the fuck is the king's name, Bacon? Oh my God, the king of Midland. His brother's name is it Julius? I think it is. We were just talking about Caesar. The king's name, I forget his name. But anyway, and obviously the Pope is still the same Pope, or would be at this time too. Yeah, I wonder if he knows Farnese and the family, Bacon. Do you think he does? The Count over here?
Maybe.
I think Teresa and Farnese ever met?
Maybe.
In the movies, they do put Farnese in a bunch of scenes where she shouldn't be that old yet, but we'll ignore it. Oh, Midland. I'm Googling it, Bacon.
Yeah.
Julius. No, that's his brother.
Yeah. Julius
maybe he doesn't have a name.
It's the brother that gets jealous, right?
He's fucking the queen, Bacon. Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah.
So I love that shit. I guess we don't know his name. We got Adonis, his nephew, who Guts kills, crying.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, obviously. I don't think we ever get the queen's name either. The queen is his second wife, never forget, because his first life looks like Charlotte, and that's why he molests her. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But this all came from me noting that he's got a dragon behind him. I'm like, I don't think the Midland crest is a dragon.
Where's this dragon here? When he's sitting at the front.
It's all over it.
Cool.
And it reappears a bunch of other places too. Maybe that's his county. He's Dragon County. Maybe that's where the dragon that lives in that came through in Fantasia is now at. He's at the Count's castle, and we're gonna go back there and we're gonna meet Teresa again when Guts goes to kill it.
That would be super sick.
Right after.
Yeah, that'd be super sick.
Yes, we got to meet Teresa again. He teased us by having the prostitute girls reappear in Falconia. We need Jill and we need Teresa, Bacon, and I will not accept none of it. I will not accept it not being none of it. Whatever. You understood what I was saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Guts doing his cool fucking he's bleeding and he pulls it across his neck and then there's again too much blood.
Yeah,
man, what a cool bloke this fella is. Maybe vengeance is good. Maybe we do need to kill them all.
See, that was for the first time I was like, man, this Gus guy is like cool because he's like, oh, I know that this is I know who you are because I got the brand basically. So he uses this.
Oh yeah, and the cool teasers of like it cannot be, and it's like the Black Swordsman.
Gotta love
it's that cool fucking Goku shit we keep talking about. They don't know, but they're gonna know, and now we're seeing their realization. So overall, it is funny that like multiple times we get the sword monologue about how it's just a slab of iron. It's cool. I wonder if there was a big gap between them, so they assumed that like each of the first 3 chapters like would be somebody's introduction to the series. So they were like, we gotta explain this fucking sword every time.
I do like it as a meme though. So
yes, it's good. There's some good Puck comedy where Puck saves him from archers by solar flaring them, and then he gets captured real quick and Guts cuts off their hands. All cute stuff.
Sometimes we don't want to go beat by beat. Super sharp, and then sometimes it just smashes through everything.
Yes. It cut those hands off like to precision. We do get Zondark here. I remember I used to complain a lot about Zondark and like, oh my god, we really need 3 fights with this prick. I actually do like how it escalates, and the third fight is really not with Zondark at all. He's not there at all. It is cool. Again, big guy shows up talking a lot of shit, and then we fuck him up real quick, at least initially. Obviously, again, with the vengeance theme, he sort of plays into it of he just wants vengeance in the Black Swordsman. He loses himself in his vengeance, which might be what the apostles do. Maybe they just want revenge on humanity for driving them to the place where they had to use the Baelid to activate the thingy, and so they're taking out their anger on the world, and which is a parallel to Guts because he's taking out his anger on demon kind in the world, when actually they should all just listen to Puck. We gotta look to the future and build things and not destroy things, Bacon. That's how we win in society, right? That's what Vinland Saga taught us.
Yes.
You think Vinland Saga is going to end horribly anyway? Shut up, idiot.
Hey, I just said it's not going to succeed. This is what I meant. I meant a bad ending. It's not going to succeed. I feel like we've moved the goalposts on what we thought. You know, I knew it was going to fail, and then you were all Mr. Hope for it. Yeah. It's failing, bro. Failing.
Yeah, the end of this chapter is the fucking Baelid reveal. It's really cool. Baelid, great design. It's a little too big. It looks kind of like a big stone. I always imagine they're squishy, Bacon. How about you?
That's a good point. I don't know what to think. It's such a creepy, eerie design. So I just like, it's so striking. Like, you can't forget it.
And when they form, it's fucking sick. I don't want to go, we shouldn't go beat by beat of me just scrolling here.
Yeah, for sure.
Overall, I guess Vargas is the first one to die, so maybe we should talk about Vargas initially. Vargas, obviously, a big-time, massive, again, vengeance, thematic parallel, but parallel physically very much to Guts. He's missing his two, he's got no legs, or lower half of his legs. He's walking around on stilts.
Yeah.
He's lost an eye, half his face has been bitten off, I assume. Guts obviously ignores these parallels and bullies him around and is like, yeah, he chokes him when he finds out like he has a Baelid. He's like, how did you get this? Because Guts, in a cute thing that actually does fit, Guts has no idea how to activate the Baelid, which is kind of a cute little detail. And because obviously he wants to, because he wants to go back there and fuck up the God Hand real quick.
That is true.
But
he doesn't know how Griffith got it. Yeah, I never really thought about it in that. He doesn't know it.
Yeah, it just suddenly was a face, and they got teleported. He was like, "Man, what's Griffith doing in this lake? Trying to kill himself?" Shake my head. I love my girlfriend. The Vargas parallel. I remember the last time I read it, and I was writing notes as I was going, and I thought I was a genius for getting that Vargas was a Guts parallel with his limbs missing and everything.
Yeah.
And I was partially validated and partially sad that I didn't get to make the point when the narrative literally directly addresses it. Because Guts has the scene where he's alone in sort of the outskirts of town in like this abandoned building, and basically he places these stone walls. Poor Puck, he ignores him completely, so Puck goes off to try and save Vargas on his own. And he's pretending that he doesn't care. Fuck Vargas. We're not friends. I hate this pathetic piece of shit. And then he has like the visions of him saying, avenge me. And then actually this is before he says avenge me, because he says that when he's getting executed. But he remembers his like, he just like has visions of him losing, like holding his eye, and then he holds his eye. And it's a great little scene of Guts like forcing, while he's alone, he's like forced with himself to acknowledge that him and Vargas are more similar, and he would like to acknowledge, even if he is big and strong and Vargas is small and weak.
The character is the same.
Yeah.
In some regard.
Yes. There's a tiny detail here where when Guts remembers the God Hand and we see their silhouettes for the first time when he's explaining what a Baelid does, there's 5 of them. But then later when I think the Count has a vision of them, and there's only 4 of them, because obviously the Count was 7 years ago, so it was before Griffith was a God Hand.
Yeah.
Little consistency details, that was at least planned out this far.
Yeah. That's cool.
But
I mean,
anything to say about Vargas?
I was just so sad when he died. I remember the first time I really grew to like him, and it felt like he was finally, he was on that arc that Guts should have been on. He appreciated Puck. Puck was, really like getting to his heart, and like you could have felt like this guy could have been abandoned him before. He could join that little crew, and you've always seen Puck join them, and then you just see him get just destroyed. So
because he sort of embraces the vengeance even up until the end, so it is sort of a failure of his thematic test, I
True.
guess. But he still motivates Guts in the end. Though even the Guts has the scene when he goes to like the pile of bodies in like the mass grave of like the people the count has executed, and they all sort of their spirits appear and say like we'll do it together, and they try to merge into him, and they potentially give him more strength. He starts to get teeth and get taken over, and he like forces them out and says like, no, I'm gonna do it for me or whatever. And that feels like a thematic beat that like the narrative might be endorsing, which is interesting, and I haven't thought about too much. But that is sort of because Guts has a monologue where he's like, no, I'll do it for the living, I'll do it for me or something. And that's right after Vargas is executed, because he follows them dumping Vargas's body up there, and he holds Vargas's head in his hand.
Yeah.
So I actually am unsure, I guess, on Vargas's thematic underpinnings, maybe. Oh, I guess another thing here as I'm scrolling, Guts has the "don't touch me" thing still, which might be something that doesn't fit, because obviously the whole point is that through Casca he gets over his fear of being touched. But you could easily explain it as he's just regressed. There's not really another moment where he overcomes it though, in like the post, like the lost children stuff, like right after the Golden Age. So that's a potential inconsistency, because he gets weirded out when Puck tries to touch him initially, and then Vargas touches him one time and he freaks out. But yeah. Oh, also another potential consistency thing that people bring up is obviously Guts is having sex with this monster at the beginning, and it's like, but what about Casca, bro? But even that you can explain away. He's fucking regressed. He's lost his shit. Look at him. He's already betraying Casca by abandoning her. Now he's doing it again.
Yeah,
But
I think I
again,
remember
he's not
a
really.
real life Ryan video on that as well.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah, I think he did
I don't
one
think I've
defending
seen any
that.
of his Berserk videos. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I promise I didn't steal his talking points, or maybe I did. I have watched the video and I just repressed it. God, Puck is the greatest. I just saw another Puck gag. We were just talking about inconsistencies in Vargas. You got anything to say about Vargas, Bacon?
No.
You said you liked him and you were sad when he died.
Yeah,
That's nice to hear. I like that.
I don't not much.
I like Vargas too.
Yeah, like definitely found him charming over time, and yeah, not much else.
I guess the final potential point about Vargas is that he appears to drag the Count back down to hell, which sort of implies that he's in hell, which is a little sad. The darndest implication in the entirety of Berserk is that all of the Band of the Hawk are also there, and like they didn't, like, after they were killed in the eclipse, their suffering didn't end because they're supposedly in this vortex of, well, I guess you lose all sense of individuality. Now, obviously, they're like, oh, and there's like a sad undertone at the end of like, Guts is going to end up there too one day, but probably through the machinations of the story, that's all going to be undone. And I can see a big moment at the end where the brand is taken off Guts completely or whatever, and him and Casca get to not live that fate or whatever. So Guts and stuff are probably, I'm not like depressed that they're going to end up there one day. It feels very cruel, and maybe if he hadn't figured out that like, Griffiths sacrificed the whole band to do this, and like all those characters we like would be there. It seems like, because that's really never brought up again, this sort of idea of hell as sort of this
eternal torment.
Yeah, well, not even that. It's sort of this collective conscience thing, which obviously Mura likes to do a lot of, sort of like the idea of evil as God created by a collective unconscious of like human suffering and wanting explanation for it. And that's obviously where that would all derive from, all this hell stuff.
Maybe he dropped it after, like, yeah, maybe I the sad thing is like we will never quite know what he meant by the idea of evil, and if we'll ever bring it back in. That's probably I thought that was probably that's definitely one of my favorite chapters, actually, like that I remember of, so.
Me too, bro. Me too.
Yeah,
600,000 views. Baby.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yes, that's sad. Judo's just down there. Actually, I don't care about Judo. That's my character. Poor Pippin, he's down there. What the fuck did he do?
My boy. Is Pippin the big guy?
Oh, this is actually something you touched on before when you were like, you said Guts. is just sort of, well, before you said this before the baseball bat thing, but that's what I'm remembering now. You said like initially like the fights are just, you said something, and then I thought, but later in the Black Swords and in the Count stuff, they like exposit that Guts is like a master swordsman and that he gets to block all of Zondak's superhuman, like super fast strokes because he knows exactly where to place his sword and stuff. So I was like, that kind of contradicts that. But I wouldn't even say that's a contradiction of your point. It's just sort of maybe you would say inconsistent characterization of his sword play potentially.
Perhaps. I mean, to be fair, his name's Zondark, you say? So the mass he is, you're not going to be able to, well, maybe Guts would because he is super strong, but like the full force of a tail coming at you is a big difference to then these tendrils, which look a lot smaller but faster. So it would make more sense for Guts to be able to block it.
But I think we were wrapping up Vargas there, I think is what we were doing. Oh, I love the shadow work with the bearlet that they do a bunch of times, where it casts like long shadows, and there's always pebbles around too. I keep saying they, and I always say that with manga. I try to correct myself every time. Actually, something that I noticed this time, this is another little detail. The people of like the Count's County, I guess is what we're calling them. And sort of his little castle city here, they sort of are a character throughout this, sort of very in the background, where sort of the fire starts happening in Vargas' place, and we do get reaction shots of everybody opening their windows and looking. And obviously at the beginning, it's obviously a witch trials thing where like, people are like selling each other out, and this innocent girl clearly at the beginning gets executed for being a heretic, and her little brother's there, and it's all sad, depressing early Berserk stuff. But then later we also see them all watching the eclipse vortex stuff. Well, it's not the eclipse, Bacon. That's only once every 222 years. The Bearlet, the fucking spiraling storm thing that appears to connect the two worlds or whatever. They're all watching that and stuff. I do like that continuously. It is like, it's not just like people are like, nobody's noticing any of this stuff going on. They all are noticing, and they're all sort of looking in fear, which is sort of I guess that sort of rolls back into the sort of the collective subconscious, unconscious type fear thing that Berserk kind of reiterates on throughout its entire run.
Yeah. Kind of, it thinks the helplessness that all these people are normal, but they've ruled by such a monster. And it's just tyrannical. I imagine medieval towns wouldn't have been that much different, but I do wonder, like, what would it actually feel like to be back in there and just like farming away and doing your thing, just like the guy comes up and is like, I'm taking all your stuff and you can't do nothing about it, and you're like, oh no. So it is
an interesting thing that between the Count and the Snake Baron, where the generic YouTube good writing bloke shows up and he says the best villains are the ones that don't think they're villains at all. Everybody loves this talking point. It's interesting that Snake Baron is very openly like, I am evil and I hate these people and I'm going to crack their bones under my hooves and fuck them all up and whatever. Whereas the Count does actually think like, now it's obviously misdirected and he obviously has trauma surrounding heretics and stuff when we get into his wife's backstory and stuff like that. But I think at least at some point does feel like he's doing the best by his people, and even regardless of that, he thinks he's doing the best to keep his daughter safe or whatever, which is obviously embroiled in a bunch of overprotective fatherly tropes that are sort of reflected even in contemporary society.
For sure.
First time I said contemporary in this whole recording, Bacon. Nice Aren't you proud of me?
At least it's not contemporaneously. That would be even worse.
I love contemporaneously.
I don't even think it's
I guess
word.
that's...
I'm still not convinced it's a word.
I'm almost certain it is. Almost certain. I invented it, Bacon. Get used to it. I invent a lot of words. I guess that's a great transition into the Count and my main girl, Teresa. I do really like, first of all, great gag where there's like fairies on the sign thingies, and Puck ends up doing the fairy, the mimics his little dance thingy when he's watching Vargas nearly get executed. Great gag, remember it. Bacon, I don't know if you watched the Attack on Titan reread stuff, but in the
No.
first episode, there was a big meme about whether or not the bird, there was like a bird that was either like one of these things where it was not a statue, but a fixture or whatever on a pole, or whether or not it was that, or it was in a real bird, and whether or not, because we were collecting like all the motifs, and we were like, oh, obviously the bird motif is a big thing come the end of Attack on Titan Bacon. So we're like, and this is in chapter 1, so we're like, is this bird a reference? Can we read into bird symbolism here?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big fight between us on whether or not it was a real bird or it was a statue thingy like this. So I think it's cute that also at the beginning of Berserk there's a weird little ornament. I don't know what you call these things on these signs, and it's a fairy, and then
Crest.
Puck is a real fairy. So it's a reference, Bacon. The cinematic universe here. It's all
Okay.
connected.
I'm trying to find this one here.
I'm a decent way down chapter 4 on Mangasy.
Okay. Well,
so it'll be the second chapter
post in
of
chat
that stuff.
in the cool.
I can copy.
Sorry.
Talk about how much you love Teresa real quick, Bacon. Tell me.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing I did like, actually, I think generally why this one, I do feel like the fights do drag a little, just overall. But one thing I do like is the great contrast between Zordak and Guts fighting. It's super gritty, and then you get to this. I love how Mura is able to portray like how clean and pristine. Is it Teresa? Is that how you say her name?
I say Teresa, but I don't know how it actually is.
How pristine.
She's never been in an anime ever, Bacon. How are we ever gonna know how to say her name?
Oh no!
They always cut the count stuff.
But it's nice how they show like all the reflections there. Oh yeah, I see that elf. That's nice. But
it's actually cute because in the video game, in the PS4 Muso whatever, the Dynasty Warrior game, they made a Berserk one, and you actually do fight the count in that one. I don't think Teresa's in it though. Maybe she's a little text pop up for a little bit.
How do you say her name? Because we did have like a prime minister called Teresa May. So maybe it's about the same. Let me. Okay, hang on. I did see it.
I think it's just there, sir.
Yeah, that's Teresa. That's Teresa.
Yes, I was correct the whole time. It's interesting because Teresa is very interesting on a few regards. Firstly, obviously, at the end she continues the theme. She wants vengeance on Guts, and then Guts cries about it. He actually is human after all, though he's also potentially crying about a bunch of other things.
Oh, it's Teresa. Oh, so it's
Teresa, Bacon.
It's Teresa. Teresa, but had no eye. Huh. Okay.
Healed, wild. Teresa, Teresa. We agree to disagree, Bacon, nonetheless. What was I saying, Bacon?
I have no clue. I was too busy looking at for the name.
Oh, I know what I was going to bring up, but I don't remember what I was saying, but I remember where I was going, Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember where you're going when you remember what you're saying.
Yeah.
Teresa is sort of very clearly, she looks a lot like Princess Charlotte. I can't help but think it's sort of a, what do you call it when it's like a first draft of sort of the Charlotte King relationship. Now, obviously, the Count actually a much better father than the King of Midland, does not try to molest his daughter, even though she looks nearly identical to her mother. Can you believe it? The Count with self-restraint.
Yeah.
Even in the end, he chooses Teresa. What a man this Count is. We love him. He's a great man.
True. That is definitely something. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've definitely thought about that a lot.
In the final moments, for sure, with the Count.
Oh,
we're not
he
talking about the
absolutely
Count. We're talking about Teresa.
Yes, Teresa. But yes, I've always noticed that Princess Charlotte and Teresa look a lot alike each other. And that's sort of my biggest fear is like, Mura thinks he's got Charlotte. He doesn't need to bring back Teresa. Yes, he does. Obviously, Teresa, there's even depth to her because initially there's an initial moment where Puck wants to leave to go and help Guts because they can hear things going on outside, and Teresa has that moment where she screams and is like, "No, I don't want you to leave," or whatever, because she's so lonely because she kept in her room all day because her father's terrible. We hate the Count. the Count basically keeps her in a room all day. I don't know what. I was like, I got to explain it for the audience that hasn't seen Berserk. If they're this far in, Jesus Christ. But yeah, and I like that she has that little moment. It's like a little mean moment. She's a little crazy for a second, but then she readjusts and she's like, oh, of course he can get out. Obviously, the princess locked in a room thing. Technically, she's not a princess. But that's a thing we've seen before. And obviously, she ends up wishing that she hadn't, tangled Rapunzel. What's that bitch's name?
Yeah.
She's in a tower. Game of Thrones does the reference to that with Ariana being in a tower.
Oh, really?
I love her.
There you go.
Well, Game of Thrones doesn't, because that shit got cut from the television program, but it's in the books, Bacon. But yeah, Game of Thrones is a Cinderella reference too, if the shoe fits, but if the shoe fits, you're the murderer. Actually, that's a theory for the future. Bacon, why did I bring that up? Teresa gets a little crazy a little bit, and I like that. It gives her a little bit of depth. Oh, once she gets out the room, she wishes she never left it at the end. And Teresa, I guess, is sort of an example of Guts' warpath, of even the people that he doesn't directly kill, he sort of ruins their life. Like, we never get an inkling of what happens after this. I don't know. I guess, does she become Countess? I don't know if they just throw her the fuck out. A bunch of her guards are gone. Now, in my headcanon, Bacon, she shows up one day and she's a fucking warrior princess who's trained every day with the Master Swordsman, Zondark's younger brother, to one day kill Guts. It is also another thing when you think of Berserk in a larger context is like, well, that Falconia should happen. Not that Fantasia should happen. And there's fucking giant snakes and shit running around killing everybody. So can we just say Teresa died off screen? Lamau, we don't have to do it ever again. Now Jill is also out there somewhere. So
Jill is much
there
more
is sort
likely
of
to be dead. Sure.
Who is much more likely to be dead?
Jill.
Yeah, I feel like realistically, yeah, because she's in like a random mountain town.
Exactly.
But I feel like Jill is 1,000,000% way more likely to ever come back because she gets even more focused than Teresa. She gets the big uplifting, like I'm gonna take control of my life and make it better myself, even with my dad's fucking molester friend thingy at the end. That monologue at the end, I love that final Jill monologue. But we'll get to that, Bacon. But yeah, Jill, I'm much more confident coming back than poor Teresa, but I love her anyway. Teresa gets the moment at the end where she maybe would kill herself, but then she doesn't do it, and she shows that she has sort of the same intrinsic lust to like survive that Guts has. But I feel like that's just a general humanity thing Berserk is prescribing here, that humans, even if they take an arrow and are 5 years old and have a giant sword and fall down a hill and are surrounded by wolves, they're still going to kill the fucking wolves, Bacon, because they don't want to die. But she grabs onto the sword at the end. It's fucking sick. Her hands are all bleeding. She swears revenge on Guts. Did I miss anything about Teresa, Bacon? Anything
I don't think you did.
I guess there's more context to her stuff. I really like her introduction where we cut right for like Vargas is basically cut out, literally. And then we get introduced to another sort of central character of this arc. You sort of replace Vargas with Teresa. And it is a very immediate, like, oh, it's very interesting to see the Count in this sort of scenario. And the Count's like terror when she doesn't like want him near him. It's like a very like, aw, poor Count. And then he has like the crazy Count face when he turns to the old man servant he has and he's like, get out.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Kind of cute. Oh, Chestnut Puck's first appearance in the entire manga, Bacon. You know about Chestnut Puck, right? You know what I'm talking about when I say that. Yes, it's like the goofy Puck that appears much more later on.
Oh yeah,
its first ever appearance. Well, he's not the squirrel; he's the chestnut.
Yeah.
But in this arc, he does turn into a squirrel, Bacon. You are correct. Oh my god, why do I ever doubt you? For one panel, he is a squirrel. That's probably where Chestnut Puck comes from, because I guess his face kind of looks like a chestnut. There's at the very beginning of the Teresa introduction, he imagines what he is going to become of him. He's like, oh no, I'm going to get eaten. He imagines himself on the top of a cake, and he's Chestnut Puck, and that's the first appearance.
Nice.
Just on Puck quickly, because everybody says that Puck becomes way more goofy later on. He's very goofy immediately.
So goofy here. Like, he's literally talking to the Count, and then like the Count's like, oh, you know, I've seen yeah, for a squirrel or bird, you sure talk a lot. And then he has like, oh, squirrel, like as is a monstrous thing. Like it
Yes,
was,
yes, it's so good.
yeah,
Every puck gag is so good. I love it so
mhm,
much. Um, Now obviously later on, like he's very plot relevant here, and even into Conviction, like he has a little plot, like when he saves, like he has to race back and forth to tell somebody something so that their plan can succeed at the end.
mhm,
Now, a lot of people's criticism come the end is sort of like he has no plot relevance. Um, I don't really care about that stuff. I always say like as long as the character's around, I'm like completely fine with it because like when they show up on Elfhelm, like Puck's like he could there have a plot role of sort of like, well, I'm going to thematically introduce things, but instead he's doing his goofy routine with Magnifico, with Farnese's brother, if you remember Bacon, you
mhm.
remember,
Yeah.
and trying to take over the kingdom or whatever, and it's sort of a gag. I don't know, that shit's fucking great. I hate these fucking complaining anti-Puck fans. I'll kill him, Bacon. I'll kill him with my big sword. Um, Puck's always great. S tier character. Third best character in the show. Guts, get your ass back to fourth. Um, that being said, we were wrapping up Teresa, I think. I guess that leaves us with the count and then the finale. I guess we kind of already talked about the count. We've talked about how he gets some added dimensions. Uh, I guess we'll talk about his backstory then. His wife was cheating on him, Bacon. What a sad
What a
state of
sad.
affairs.
Yeah.
In the worst way, you don't come home and catch her with one bloke, but with many a blokes in
Yeah.
a satanic orgy thingy that you're
Many of
specifically
lasses as
fighting
well.
against.
Yeah.
Um, this is not the last orgy we'll see in Berserk, of course. I do like the way they tease the backstory with
Like,
Teresa basically
yeah,
giving her example. Um,
that's true.
Now, you're the religious man, Bacon. The goat thingy is a Christian thing, right? For Satan, this fella's Satan, because they bring up pagans a lot. Now, pagans are like are they Satanists, Bacon? Explain this to us.
Yeah, so it's definitely I don't think it's so okay, so what I know is that goats tend to be generally a depiction of the devil stereotypically just because devil has horns and like a goatee and sometimes he has like hooves and stuff, at least in popular media.
Holy
Particularly
shit, Bacon! I just had a pedals moment where I was like, a goatee is because goats have goatees.
yeah.
Holy fucking shit!
Yeah, yeah. What I
You've
can
blown my
say is
mind.
that I'm pretty sure in at
Does
least
he have a giant cock all the time, Bacon? Like this goat?
I don't know. I don't know. But in so do you know the concept of a scapegoat? Do you know where that comes from?
No, but now I'm putting it together.
Okay.
Holy shit!
So a scapegoat is, used as something that, you literally a scapegoat is something that you kind of put out there to take all the heat for
Yeah,
something wrong you've done. And the scapegoat
the
is
devil
literally
blames
from
other people.
a Jewish practice where they would, basically let the goat escape, go into the wilderness after they've done their rituals to put all their sins on the goat. This is why they also sacrifice sheep and goats and
Mm.
stuff. Now, if I also remember, I think goats are technically unclean animals because they have a cloven hoof, which basically means their hoof has two parts to it. So this would be similar so not a horse. Does a cow has a cloven hoof? I can't quite remember it, but basically goats. There is some stuff there, like at least biblically, but I think it's more of a cultural thing to show goats as evil because they have those eyes of their. I'm not sure what type of people it is, but they're like the horizontal rectangles, not like snake eyes, which are slits, which are also seen as kind of evil in a different way. So there's also that. So there's a few things there, but yeah, it's definitely a Christian iconography to have something satanic or cultist be depicted with a goat.
Yeah, because the goat here also has boobs, which is I know Rio, who's Satan in Devilman. Spoiler alert.
Mm.
Is I don't know if it's a hermaphrodite because it's got a dick, but it's also got the boobs, and it's supposed to be like a gender bending thing. That's also supposed to be like a representation of Satan, right, Bacon? Am I onto something here?
I don't know about the whole boob thing, honestly.
Okay. Maybe he combined the goat thing with the Devilman thing, and
Maybe.
we've got a double reference
Maybe. I
here.
mean, there could be another reference as well on top of that. So
I feel like I've seen that in a few other things, but they might all be Japanese, so it might be a Japanese folklore thing. Now the word pagan specifically, Bacon. Uh, does that mean anything? Because they never like they have a religion, the Holy See or whatever. It's clearly based off like Catholicism.
yeah.
Um,
So
but they never say like it is Christianity, but they say specifically paganism
so
here.
pagan is a general term for anything that isn't Christianity, I think.
Okay.
So a pagan religion could be something like the Greek gods or Roman gods, or I think it's generally seen as something that's polytheistic, so many gods, so like maybe Norse worship as well. We could search it up right now, what pagan actually
Because
means.
it's
But
interesting.
it's kind of like the term weed. What is a weed? Well, a weed is any plant that you don't want. That's literally what a weed is. So a pagan could be anything that's just not Christian. Let me say, paganism
Yeah.
is is a term first used by fourth century early Christians of the Roman Empire. Okay, so pagans are those who are practicing polytheism or ethnic religions that are other than Christians. So it's just a term that Christians used to talk about
Yeah.
other religious practices. So I don't think like Islam wouldn't be paganism, for example, because it's
Yeah.
monotheistic.
Because it's so similar or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, monotheistic. Yeah. Because I know people say that like Halloween is like a pagan holiday or something, but
yeah.
I guess pagan doesn't mean anything specific. It just means
What
like
they
a
mean then? They
non-Christian
mean
holiday.
it's a Celtic ritual. Actually, that's what's something more specific. So,
Oh, okay.
though there is contention among that, so it's not necessarily. I actually can't
Yeah,
remember
it's
the
like a
arguments.
meme
Yeah, that.
repeated every year.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just curious if like pagan represented something very specific to a relation to Christianity, and it would be like, Mura didn't really understand that when he was when he was researching like, uh, England, medieval England, for research for this or something.
Yeah, I mean to be
Um,
fair, it is up to the translation team to catch these things, so
yeah.
they should have
Um,
cultural understanding.
oh, Bacon, how have we not brought this up before yet? But Berserk boobs have the greatest nipples I ever saw in my life. Why are they so good, Bacon? Agree or disagree?
I don't have an
I'm
opinion.
looking at this cutout heart here of Teresa's fake mother backstory, and I'm like, man, look at those nipples, though. Casca's nipples always look great. Farnese's crazy nipples, my goodness, Bacon. This is actually also a reference to another review thingy, because me and Ari would always argue about whether or not the British boobs and black sails looked good or not, because they were always in these weird fucking 1700s dresses that made all boobs look bad, Bacon. Don't listen to Ari.
It's
That's
like
the
they're
reference.
like the corsets. They're like
Yeah, but it's a very specific type that I assume is period accurate. It's just
yeah.
hideous, Bacon. Put Eleanor back in pirate clothes. What's she doing in this fucking proper dress? Disgusting.
It's like when they're all
Nonetheless,
like super tight and this, so it's like coming up more than
yeah,
actually
but
going out. This whole thing, I don't know.
yeah, it's something like that. They just look bad. All right. Berserk nipples are great. Bacon refuses to acknowledge this. Oh, a more interesting thing, Bacon. In the Count's like castle, there's a bunch of statues that look like a bunch of Roman statues. If we're talking about like
Mm,
referencing past stuff and stuff like that. We talked about that with the battlefield and the Skull Knights old kingdom looking rather Roman and things like that.
yeah.
I always thought that was interesting too. I don't know if we can read anything too much into that, but yeah. Also, something that's interesting is that Guts is surrounded by a bunch of soldiers at multiple parts throughout the Black Swordsman arc, and he actually surrenders in chapter 1. When
Hmm.
at this point, he's stronger than he was when he was the 100-man Slayer, so he should probably be able to fuck these blokes up if we're talking about consistency.
That's a few things, but
Um, in the count example, actually, when Vargas is getting executed, they actually do say hundreds and hundreds of soldiers, so I guess maybe he would have a problem with that.
yeah.
But he also gets into that big room I guess it's not even towards the end, but towards the middle of the count stuff where he fucks up all those dudes. And the second in command, you always said you were as strong as Zondark or whatever,
Yeah,
show it, and then
classic.
Guts just kills him in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a great, I love that anime. Like, he's nearly as strong as, it's like the Mike thing in Attack on Titan. It's like, he's nearly as strong as Levi. Dies immediately, Lamau.
Yeah.
But yeah. We almost got into the Count backstory stuff. We started on it, and then we brought up the pagan stuff. But this all culminates. Guts is being awful. He kills the Count with his shooting arm. Well, first of all, the Count sees Teresa. Teresa sees the Count.
Yeah.
Sad moment.
Tragic.
A lot of build up there. I feel like they escalate with a lot of tension here, where it's like, oh no, they're going to see each other. That's like a thing you're invested in. And also just generally the fight with Guts and the Count. And then Puck is also around, sort of mediating between all three and sort of just being good Puck stuff. He has an argument with the Count at some point where he's like, you're just a weak human too. And the Count like doesn't even like freak out in insecurity and want to kill Puck immediately. He's like, that was an interesting speech, little rat. I'll let you live because of that. And then he turns away, but then Puck keeps going or something, and then he pisses him off. But then he gets distracted because Guts jumps up. That's a cute moment. Oh, Guts being a prick. He fucking wins. He cuts the head off, and then he brings the head over to Teresa to stab it in front of her. Can you believe this prick bake?
Yeah.
Pretty edgy, huh?
Yeah.
And Puck is freaking out. He's like, what are you doing this for? Teresa's screaming at this point, and then there's like a lake of blood that sneaks into the fucking behelit that had been dropped on the ground earlier because Puck was trying to run away with it.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's so cool where it's like, because instead of doing the cool animation thing where everything moves over, it's usually just a shot of it like twitching and then a shot next to it of it all together, and it's just sort of like sudden. And I like how it's played out in the paneling. It's like dum. You hear the sound effect in your fucking head, Bacon. You're like, oh shit. And I love the I'm trying to scroll down to find it real quick. The fucking idiot. It's in the next chapter. No, it's not. It's right here. You fucking idiot. Oh, first of all, the one of the best pieces of art in this entire thing. I wonder how you feel about this line work. I guess I'll copy it and send it over. Is when Guts is like stabbing down into the Count. I remember I used this in a bunch of videos. But this one image, I really like the line. The lines, I think it might be very Devilman-y.
When it just becomes super contrasted. Yeah, I like those too.
It's hyper black and white. It's it's real.
It's only two colors. It's no gray at all. So.
Yeah, no gradient. Yeah. We were going. Oh, then Guts has this crazy thing. We get the lake of blood. Oh, and the framing besides it coming together is we get sort of the hyper close up of the behelit screaming. It's obviously very creepy because the first time, and then we cut immediately to a 2-page spread, and we're in the Yu-Gi-Oh realm where it's the repeating stairs.
It is so cool. I love that so much. Like it is just so like just creepy. It's just so creepy. Like it just.
Now I like that every eclipse is. Oh, it's not eclipse. Every behelit activation is a different repeating thing. Like here it stares, and then it's faces with Griffith, and then we see the Skull Knight Black Story one. It's little tentacles. I really like that. I guess what is this thematically represent, Bacon? We got repeating, infinite suffering. What are we saying here, Bacon? It's just ominous and cool. The stairs shit is fucking sick. Obviously Berserk, I'm pretty sure this chapter came out before Yu-Gi-Oh! And obviously this is a reference to an old painting, I know, Bacon. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Does this too when Yugi goes inside the Millennium Puzzle and Shardy is there, and they sort of have a cool, it's one of those cryptic things where they're talking about shit you don't know about yet, Bacon. It's like they're referencing the God Hand in chapter 1, and you're like, man, Yu-Gi-Oh!'s the coolest television show of all time. Cool music's playing, it's all Egyptian themed. But yeah, that's immediately what I thought of when I first ever got to this point, Bacon. I was like, man, this is the sickest shit ever. And I love everybody's reaction shots, and Guts' initial reaction shot is what he hoped for. But this boy is fucking shitting himself. He's like, oh, what the fuck? This one face on him. It's fucking so good.
Yeah, true.
Then we hear the footsteps, Bacon, or at least that's what I assume these sound effects are. Yeah. And they're coming, and it's just like, And then Guts has another great face where he sort of is realizing what's happening. He's like, man, I should be smiling. And then he does this half grin, smile, terrified eye look thing. Oh, yeah, what a face this is to me.
Is this when you see Femto for the first time.
No, it's a little before that.
Oh, it's just the one before that.
But
Oh,
this
yeah.
one of him looking up is another
Yeah.
good one that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's like 2 pages before that. And I love just in a story, I love tension like this where it's like, oh, and the like Guts slowly is realizing what's happening, and the count says they're coming, the great ones are coming. You're like, oh shit. Especially on a first time, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And you sort of understand the monumentality without the context, just through the construction of the scene.
Yeah. I think changing it to like an otherworldly thing, and like you see Guts is terrified, and I think as much as I was like, oh, Gus can just take so many hits and it doesn't really add much tension to it. What does bring you the tension, as I said before, is that when you see that mask break and Guts actually look terrified, you're like, this guy that always feels like he knows what he's doing or in control in some way or another, he's scared. I'm scared. Or it just emphasizes how big of a deal it is. So.
And I like that in retrospect, even when the on like rereads, even when it's like the surprise factor isn't there, it's still like the monumental moment of like, this is one of the only times Guts and Griffith see each other post eclipse, and it's like, this is like, what a moment. Even if Femto's gonna be acting a little weird. We also then get the first 2 pages.
I'm so interested to see this Femto acting weird, because to me it feels like Femto, but I must just not be remembering the other stuff as well. Because he just seems like,
again, it's
aloof,
like the most Femto ever talks. So I guess it is Femto, but it just feels very un-Griffith like. We'll talk about it in a second. But just before that, we get the first full page spread of them all. I've talked about this, and I had a big talk about this in one of the scripted chapter reviews I did when we saw the new God Hand members, where it was sort of where I talked about the texture on them. Obviously, Femto's got a cool texture to him. Ubik and my goddess, Slan is over here. We got Void looking creepy. Conrad's the weirdest looking one. He's just kind of there. He's kind of fat. He's kind of creepy, I guess. I always
get the gloop guys with their arms close together. Confused.
Mixed up.
Yeah, mixed up.
Yeah. Ubik's the one that flies. Conrad's the fat one.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he's got the dumb name.
Yeah, I think.
And he's the worst design.
It does look. It looks like latex. It looks almost like I forget what the. Oh, I want to look it up so bad. I'm going to look it up. So there's an artist who creates stuff cool. Created a game, Dark Seed, made as of YouTube by PBG, Peanut Butter Gamer, ages ago. PBG. Dark Seed is what it's called.
I've seen some of this,
Not Dark Side.
I'm googling Dark Seed.
No.
I think it is Dark Seed because I'm looking at things and I think I get what you mean.
Butter Gamer. Am I spelling
Dark Seed?
Is it dark? It's like a. Oh, dude!
I want to Google images.
Yeah.
It's
just like Dark Seed. Yeah. So psychological horror by H.R. Geiger.
Yep,
okay.
That's what I was looking at too.
Okay, let's have a look. I'm gonna have a look because this is what it kind of reminds me of. This kind of like horror. I guess the best way to also describe it is like xenomorph or what's the guy who made?
Because there are a bunch of artists.
What is the guy called? Cthulhu. H.P. Lovecraftian. There you go.
If you look up H.R. Geiger Berserk, it comes up with a bunch of Conrad parallels. So yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah, because there's a bunch of old like famous artists that like people show, like especially when Fantasia happens. There's that one art piece that Mura almost entirely recreates with Ubik in it, where it's sort of the it's impossible to describe because it's such a surreal thingy. It might be that bloke, but yeah, we've got a. If you just Google this bloke Berserk, a bunch of stuff comes up.
Yeah.
But yes.
Okay. So
the weird xenomorph art is one of the reasons why I kind of want to watch Alien. But yeah.
Yeah.
I have never
This
seen
Apollo made me think of H.R. Geiger immediately. Okay. Yeah. Some of this stuff is very gritty, very sexual, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad I'm. Okay. So I'm not an idiot. It's interesting.
You're onto something, mate.
Yeah, I've never looked into this stuff, but the whole Puck stuff and with so
you didn't even know they were all named after science fiction novels, Bacon. My goodness.
Didn't even know
Have you not been watching the top 10 facts videos about Berserk?
No, I haven't. I should do though. All right. Well,
Um,
that's on my timeline. I mean, on my history for a long time.
yes. Oh, we get the beginning of the very next chapter is the cool outside shot of everybody in the town reacting. There's something very particular about this choice that works so well of we're immediately in the inside of this otherworldly thing, and then the start of the next chapter is an establishing shot of them outside of it to sort of recenter it and sort of know that we're still like here kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It gives it a levity, and then you sort of are immediately thrown back in. It's like a ding, and we're back in, and they're posing again, and we get even more group shots of them because these are some cool designs, and we want to show them off. And then we immediately get a Griffith scream, and it's like, yeah, this is fucking sick. Who's Griffith? I want to know everything about him. I'll read 10 fucking volumes about him if you want to give them to me right after this.
Mm.
And believe it or not, Bacon, that's what he's going to do.
So I want to say something real quickly.
Go ahead.
One thing that I brought up in my mind is like, what would it be like if we didn't get this reveal this early? Would I enjoy the Golden Age that much more? And I think maybe this second read through, I may just enjoy that much more. But the fact that Griffith is revealed, like, it's compelling, but it's also not, because it almost, I don't know. For me, it's a weird feeling where I'm like,
you want the surprise? You want the
not the surprise,
non-spoilers?
but like, I just don't want the confirmation. I'm like, you're always like, it's kind of like Makima in Chainsaw Man. You know these people are sus. You can just feel it because of how they're written, and you're like, no, don't do it like these manipulative characters. And often they fill me with the most dread. But here, like, the dread is confirmed. You know, there is like, yeah, I don't know. But then at the same time, you see like Guts go on his own, and you're just like, okay, so how is Guts going to get screwed over? Like, Griffith is so low. Like, how are they going to get screwed over?
Yeah.
And then like, it's such a unique and interesting way to like, I feel like if Mura didn't have to write this as like if you could guarantee that like it would be at the same popularity now and rewrote it and no one knew it, he wouldn't have done it this way. But because of how manga is written, they have to get the hooks in you early, right, to keep you onto reading. But yeah,
I vehemently disagree, Bacon.
You think so? Okay.
Vehemently.
But I think it's fascinating to think like how almost manga, like the medium manga, creates this sort of storytelling. But yeah,
I get what you mean of like the hook and like trying to throw interesting things out there so it sticks. This is from a YouTube video. I don't remember which YouTube video it is from, but they described the Golden Age sort of as a doom clock.
yeah,
and I love the feeling of that. I think it's so interesting. And I had an old article on the Entertainment Nation what's it called, website, before I was even making YouTube videos. And believe it or not, the 10,000 word script actually was, I think I had written it on from that article, the article was called "The Black Swordsman Arc is Imperative to Berserk's Overall Structure" or something, where I vehemently defend the Black Swordsman. You have to do it. Every anime version that doesn't do it in full with the Griffith tease at the end is a piece of shit, terrible fucking thingy. And I was beating them all up because I hated them all at that point. I didn't even love the movies yet. I don't know. I just love it so much. I love, again, because I'm the big anti-spoiler dude. I don't care about the spoiler at all. I love the feeling. I love that you slowly almost forget that it's going to happen, and then a key point's reminded that this is all going to go to shit. And every time Zod shows up, and the surprise of the Skull Knight showing up, and it all being like all right, now I'm starting to see how this is all going to come together. And they keep twisting, because the big twist is that Casca doesn't end up dying. Because I feel like that's the biggest thing you're like worried about. Now, obviously, some terrible shit happens to Casca. Rickard also gets out, and that's like a nice little bonus. But I like that it is, even then, it is sort of, the agency isn't entirely taken away from Guts in his abandonment of his friends after the eclipse. It's sort of like because the Golden Age risks being a defense of Guts' behavior in these first 8 chapters, and by the time you get there, it's not, because he's still abandoning, like, he's still choosing vengeance over. He's looking at the past instead of looking to the future. We got to listen to Puck.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I just love the tension built throughout it. I especially love this moment. I think, the biggest point is that this moment thrusts you into caring about what's happening in the Golden Age. And I feel like, and I've said this in other videos, I'm pretty sure, but I feel like, I think I said that in that Berserk and Vinland Saga Shadow video. But like if you were just thrown into the beginning of the Golden Age, it's always very awkward. The beginning of the first movie especially is
True.
so awkward. It's just guts fighting in a battlefield, and you're like, why? What is
Why
going
do
on
we
here? And then
care? What is going
immediately,
on? Yeah.
yeah, when it's like, I need to know what happened between these two fucking freaks. Look at them screaming at each other and shit talking to each other right now. And Puck even, because Puck is constantly saying things that the audience is thinking, like he's Griffith. Who's Griffith? I need to know what happened between these two. Puck is saying all these things, and you're like, damn right, Puck. I don't know. I remember getting to the end of this and just being like, this is the greatest fucking shit I ever saw. I got to get
Yeah.
through the rest of this like real quick.
Mm.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think with the current implementation of Berserk, I think that actually makes sense. I was wondering if you could just. I think there's something with Berserk, and maybe I'll refactor this as I go through. But I did feel there's just a lot of fluff. It feels a little bloated, and maybe this is like I'll get to the point where I'm just vibing and I'm charming, and I feel like every moment matters because I'm really enjoying all the character interactions and all of that. But my current thing is that like I hate I like and there's two different styles of story, and I should emphasize this. I'm gonna do the comparison that I dread, but with Vinland Saga, like when you read it from the very first arc in the prologue, you are set up on this is the point. This is the idea. This is what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
And then we streamline for all that thematic thing, and everything ties into that. And it's so neat and so tidy. I think I kind of feel like that with also like Full Metal Alchemist, at least towards the end. Like the plot is just so tight and immaculately paced and so focused. And I feel like that's what at least I think this is what kind of made that Berserk on that 7 out of 10 scale for me, is because it had some awesome moments, but I just like when it was in the down times, I never got in the vibe, you know. And I talked about this before. If you can get in the vibe of the show and you're just happy to be there, or on the game or whatever, it doesn't matter how long it is because you're enjoying every single moment of it.
Yeah.
But I never got that with Berserk, and I'm hoping I get that this time around and just really get into the vibe. But they are like a different beast, and I do wonder, like, could you streamline the Golden Age to not feel so awkward and clunky at the beginning, but then not need, or and then maybe put the Black Swordsman arc later on, or like. And I'll be honest, you know, maybe loads of these animes have done it like that, and just everybody's thought the same thing as me and be like, we could streamline this, but in the end they can't because Berserk's very specific in how it does things. But
yeah.
yeah,
The because doing the Black Swordsman stuff later, because it's such an introduction, like the Snake Baron thing in like chronological order is like entirely redundant. You don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Just quickly on the Full Metal Alchemist, I feel like we are the exact opposites, because I'm like, that's why I think Full Metal Alchemist is a 7 out of 10, because there aren't that moments of downtime. And obviously, I scream about plot bros all the time, which is kind of the point you're getting at, Bacon, is like you like the plot to be more streamlined and more in focus. Whereas I feel like I love the again, I am in the vibe entirely. If it was just Puck and Guts on a road trip for 700 chapters, I would eat it all up and love it. And if all the other characters were along for the ride, even better. But yeah, I think you are entirely correct in like whether or not you get into it and you are invested in certain things. Interestingly enough, I feel like the Golden Age arc is the most streamlined of them all, and is why most people think it is their favorite, is sort of that there isn't a lot of fluff. I think there is specific fluff in later ones, like Conviction, actually, I wouldn't say so, but right after Conviction, the beginning of the Millennium Falcon arc, where they're like fighting the trolls and stuff, I think some people think that meanders a little bit. So yeah, but it will be interesting.
It'll be interesting because yeah, I think, I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist is a little bit yeah, it's interesting. I like it's mainly the end, like after you get past basically I mean, it's guess spoilers for Fullmetal Alchemist. After, like, once you get to like Mustang killing Lust, after that you feel like smooth sailing, and I still think there are good character moments, but I feel like like it does, everything feels like it's progressing, but you are still getting good moments there, and yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you completely disagree, but yeah, I think that is an interesting thing, because I definitely feel like if you like with Cowboy Bebop, like you just have to get in the vibe where you're like, I'm happy to watch these characters and I'm
Yeah.
invested in them.
That's a show
And
with nearly no plot.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it got that for me, but it took me 10 episodes to get that, or like trying
Yeah.
twice to actually get into
Took
that and
me 2
dropping it twice.
watches. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, and then I think, you know, it's almost a similar thing with The Wire, where like, actually, The Wire has the best of both worlds. It's like, I feel like the plot in that is also pretty immaculately paced. Maybe because I did get into the vibes, but everything, it may feel like you're treading water a little bit and not feeling like you're going anywhere, but everything, all the pieces matter. That's the big meme in The Wire, like all the pieces matter. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably why I think The Wire is probably the GOAT, in terms of like
Yeah,
just
and
overall execution of an idea. But yeah, it's anyway. If you liked the vibes, Kyle, I mean, I need to badge you more about this, but definitely watch The Last Airbender. It's a lot of plotting, just good vibes. But then at the end of each season, it kind of ramps up a little bit, so you get best of both worlds. And I think that's why
yeah.
some of the most eternally loved
Just
characters online at the moment are Last Airbender characters. So
God, I had something I wanted to jump in, but I forgot. Also, I've got 13% of the battery left.
okay, cool. We
So
are
we kind of
nearing
got to
on
speed
3
through
hours
things.
here.
So yes, I told you we would go for a while.
We
I
would.
feel like it hasn't been boring at all. But
No, we're doing good.
the just to quickly try and wrap things up. Obviously, we didn't talk about Femto being out of character. So what Femto says here is still squirming around in your pitiful existence, I see. I just feel like there's no way Griffith would ever brag about this. Like, I can totally see Griffith ignoring Guts entirely, but I would see him saying nothing at all. And he kind of is like that on the Hill of Swords, where Guts sort of screams. And he even has a line where he's like, you haven't changed at all, I see, or something, in it. Fucking Griffith, little motherfucker, I'll kill him.
I just don't read like he's saying like that. I feel like he's being as posh and annoying as possible, but he's kind of like almost, maybe there could be almost like a hint of disappointment, or like, I see.
I feel like it's too petty. I feel like Griffith is never, well, I guess the rape is very petty and everything surrounding that, but he sort of has in his pettiness this mask on of, I don't actually care about any of this. I'm just being a fucking, totally stoic Griffith right now. I know, but he continues on this stuff. Actually, maybe that might be the only line. I feel like he is like prancing in evilness a little bit too much here too, where he's like, no, Count, you can't sacrifice this. You got to sacrifice your daughter. Ha 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 ha. Evil daughter. I don't know. I feel like,
but that could
and
just
again, we never get another characterizing.
That could just be the rules of the world,
scene.
though, that he has to sacrifice his daughter.
Yeah, but it's the way he says it, Bacon. Like, Void does the other exposition, and he feels completely like Void. He feels like he's emotionless. He's just saying,
this is
like,
the law.
This is how it happens.
We have to do it. Yeah, and where does he say that? We have to sacrifice the...
He says it later at some point. I was just stickling on this point for a second. It is cute that when, like, Griffith, either he does or he doesn't, he's like, the Black Swordsman, you say, like, he's never heard of it. And Guts is like, you can see on his face, he's like sad, like, because he thinks he's like the arch enemy of these guys, but it's like, it's the Madman meme, which isn't actually what the Madman meme is about, but the I don't even think about you meme.
Yeah. It's the Thanos meme. I don't even know who you are.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, Thanos, the whole Griffith reference. Remember that? Remember that discourse? Never mind.
No, I don't actually.
He finds the thing in the lake just like Griffith does, and then he sacrifices Gamora just like Griffith sacrifices the bear. It's a complete parallel. And Void is Red Skull. Bacon, you remember this?
True. I never thought about that.
Oh, and I swear to God, I've screamed about that so much, Bacon. I feel like you've heard me say that and you've forgotten. I refuse to believe you've never heard it. Also, Griffith, another line. His petty existence is beneath our notice. This fucking prick is being a little bitch. He ain't being. He ain't doing. Guts stands up after this. What a man. We're speeding through this. He talks more shit.
The thing is, you could also read this. I can't believe I'm defending Berserk from you. I feel like you could also say like this is him coping. You know, it's him being like,
Yeah, but I feel like Griffith, it's out of character coping. Like Griffith would cope in a. I
Maybe.
feel like Hill of Swords is perfect Griffith, but again, it depends if you think
Thing is,
Femto and Griffith are different people. Like this fucking video we recently reacted to, the response video. It's yeah, it's a whole different
okay,
thing.
well, okay. One thing I will say is that so one of the weirdest things was that after I was watching, you like talk so big about the Hill of Swords moment and how great a moment it was, and I literally felt nothing through that. I just went right through that on my first read. So
Impossible.
like I literally can't remember anything of that moment. So
Yeah, we'll
I don't.
get to it, Bacon.
I guess this just shows how little I care. Like you're
Yeah,
having such a massive moment, I literally don't care. So I hope I feel better, more. I feel more with it. Yeah.
yeah. You got two. I guess we kind of already talked about this, but this is where the backstory happens with Teresa's mom. I
Yeah.
really like how it's laid out with There's some meta things going on here because Ubik just creates like a TV screen for everyone to watch the backstory on, and he has a
True.
moment where he literally turns to the character and camera and he says something.
Where
Um,
is it?
there's I'm scrolling, I'm trying to find it.
As it would
Oh, the
seem.
shading on this one is so good too. I'm gonna copy this. I got 13%, so I'm trying to rush. But the shading on like the orgy
Yeah.
on top of the Baphomet. That's what they call those things, right?
I don't know.
Um, thingy. Oh, there's an Ubik thing where he's literally facing the camera and he says
I
something
think I
that
found it.
is like, oh, can you paste it? Oh, you can't paste it to me
I
because
can't
you're not on
paste
a
it to
computer
chat.
screen.
Hold up. Where is it? It's after. No. Oh, I just saw it. I just saw it. It's. Oh yeah. So it's when they're like, um, he just says, "As it would seem." Ho ho ho. So it's like the bottom of the page has the horse and the count riding the horse. The one before it is
Yeah.
like him in his armor and like the glowing, and you can see
Oh
Tressa
yes,
with her
this is the
mother.
moment because
Yeah.
I did scroll past this and was like, I don't think that's the moment, but yeah, it's like him teasing. You'd think this is picture perfect, haha. He turns to camera, laughs.
As it would
Um,
seem.
this is another thing because people think because Berserk does just break the fourth wall later. Puck turns and says like, "Oh, this manga would be too dark without me," and he's referencing wrestling moves that aren't like Greco-Roman wrestling moves, but he references Giant Barber, who is like a '70s Japanese wrestler,
Oh,
and
I
he's
see.
breaking the fourth wall. It's all of his Star Wars stuff, Bacon. I feel like a lot of people like Berserk fell off when this stuff started happening. It's like this is kind of Puck being goofy and the fourth wall stuff kind of been happening from the start. It's a lot less explicit, but I feel like it's still there. And I like the stylization of it. All the backstory stuff, all the shading, the Count literally killing everybody in there and his like insecure, jealous rage is great. The wife being weirdly like, she doesn't say anything and she just like coaxes him on is really weird. But I kind of like it. She's like, "Yeah, kill me" or whatever, and she's like smiling the whole time, like everybody she knows, and it was just fucking is killed around her, and she's like unremorseful it seems, and she doesn't care that she betrayed him and everything like that. It's wild. Um, him initially becoming the count, the build up of Teresa finding all this out is great. Um, then quickly, because we're running through things, because the title page of like, because first we get our first golden age scene where we get Griffith and Guts talking. And it's Griffith's famous monologue about how he wants his own kingdom and not even kings are free, and that there are certain people that will set the world in motion, and he wants to create a new world and find out who he is and everything like that. And it ends with the title page, the final title page of the final chapter of this arc, and it's him smiling, looking at the camera as like Femto is his shadow.
Mm.
It's the first tease of like Golden Age stuff and what we're gonna learn and who Griffith once was and their original relationship, and Guts' sort of more relaxed nature is different sword, him younger. It's all such a great tease again for like, oh, I gotta see some more Golden Age shit. Um,
Yeah, it also makes a contrast of like you're like, oh, okay, like he's interweaving as he makes the transition from Black Swordsman to Golden Age much more nice, a
yeah,
bit more
yeah.
palatable.
The then I think the rest of the chapter we already talked about sort of them summoning the hell thingy and the unconscious and oh no, the band of the Hawk is in there, and they all come and they reach for the count. I like that they like strip away his apostleness and he becomes sort of his old self as he's dragged away. Obviously he ends up making the choice. He nearly, because they tease that he's going to do it, and then he doesn't do it, and you're like, man, the Count, what a man. We love him. He sees the picture of his perfect family again with Teresa there, and and now a very interesting thematic thing is said where Void says the thread of fate has been severed. Fate shouldn't be able to be like undermined, right? But here we go, through the will of man, it has been undermined, and Teresa was saved. And is that what Guts' whole story is about? Because he's the struggler, he's going to kill these fucking fate pricks and prove that he can do it all himself.
It says the thread of causality has been severed.
Yes.
So
kind of the same thing. Causality is sort of a more realistic fate, I guess.
I think it's a more it's more used. Like so the causality talks a lot. So
yes, Void specifically obviously always talks about causality. The tides of causality and things like that.
Skull Knight, of course. So like
yes, because they're fucking bros from back in the day. They're Guts and Griffith, but older. Yeah, they got the same buzzwords.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's really as you're saying, I think that's definitely showing that it's like this whole talk about causality or fate, and this is what they're meant to do. It shows that like even this can be undermined, and it kind of brings this. Yeah. I think also brings greater intrigue to the world. It's like, oh wait, Teresa did something differently to what was expected before.
The Count is the one that does things.
Oh yeah, right? True. Yeah. The Count has done something different. Okay,
it's interesting.
Like the commentary is like almost like stuff didn't go the way it was supposed to. Okay, so these guys aren't the head honchos. There's a way around this, and it just builds an extra bit of depth to the world. It's like fate is something.
All of the God Hand look disappointed. Yeah, they're like, man, we fucked up. Maybe we ain't superheroes after all. I do also like just a completely small thing is that there's a lot of the time that like 3 of the God Hand will be framed and they change it. Because obviously you think Griffith is the most important one, then Void is sort of the second most important one, Slan's the hot one, and the other 2 kind of look the same. But throughout the whole, like every time they would show him, and by they I mean Mura, he would frame like them in separate groups. It wouldn't always be like the 3 lesser important ones together. It was just a little thing I noticed.
So not a very. Make them feel more like they're important.
Yeah. The Oh, I had something else to say about the causality thingy. But an interesting thing would be that if Vargas failed the thematic test, but the Count succeeded, and the Count beat causality, whereas the Vargas was taken in by vengeance. Maybe causality is vengeance. Vengeance is the causation of everything, and then we're knocking over the dominoes that way.
Well, it's the cyclicalness of it. So if you want to break the cycle, you have to break the cycle of vengeance, maybe.
And that could double for causality or fate.
Talking about the God Hand, from this, I always got the impression that Femto was the biggest, baddest boy in the introduction. Like he's like the most. There's so much focus on him, but like it is interesting to think about. Oh, he's the new kid on the block. He's only been around for less than 10 years here. You know, like these people have been around forever. So like, it'd be interesting to see them maybe they don't really interact with each other at all. They just interact with. Maybe they do later on. I can't quite remember, but they don't. You don't really see their relationship to each other.
There's a very, because obviously Slan comes back for a little bit, and her like sort of little bits of dialogue is very interesting, where she's like, where Guts is like, where are the rest of you besides like Griffith? And she's like, they're probably floating somewhere formless, doing nothing or something. And she sort of says it with a little bit of disdain, like she admires Femto or Griffith for coming back into the real world to try and do shit, and she might be wanting to do a similar thing, where she's and it gives her some characterization of like she's like more interested in like Guts, because clearly she's got this whole Guts crush thing that's even going on here, where she's like, oh, he's so impressive or whatever, and they all sort of have that. except for Griffith, which also separates them because Griffith is trying to like put him down, whereas the others are like, oh my god, look at how much hatred he has. If he could become one of us, it would be great. And they're like, well, causality hasn't allowed it. So there are little bits later on, especially with that Slan gut scene, where it is very interesting, where she seems to be like, this fucking void prick loves his old ways of just floating formless, chilling forever, whereas this Griffith prick likes to be like he's doing shit, he's applying himself, and it's interesting.
Maybe Void and Griffith have a fight later on or something. God Hand.
Oh,
I mean, how does
we're teasing the.
How does the God Hand get replaced? What happens to them? Because we saw old.
Well, I think Skull Knight be killing them.
Oh, but, I see.
That's obviously speculation, stuff like that. But yeah, I still maintain that because I like Slan, she'll be a good guy in the end. Right? She's going to turn on him just like Zod is, and everybody else I like. Vargas pulls the countdown. I really love this. Is like a Bible painting thingy as the count's being taken away. I feel like I've seen this or a famous painting that looks like
spiral.
This.
Bro,
yes.
Is this a Vinland Saga reference?
Potentially.
Bro, when he's in Ragnarok, he's getting pulled by bodies, bro.
Yeah, true.
Bro.
True. It's so cool that he's the normal count again. He's reaching out for Teresa, but he gets pulled away. Oh, it's so sad. And then they come for Guts. But he fires at Femto anyway. He doesn't do anything. Oh, and then they get the cool. They disappear into the orb thing as Guts looks up, and then finally Femto looks back. Now Guts and Griffith will look back at each other after Vitanis too, where Griffith's on the hill and he's getting on the boat, and they look at each other. So there's a lot of looks that are obviously parallel. Yeah. You get the big wide shot of the castle in the aftermath. The great framing shot I was talking about before of the Count, like, on the rubble, dead. I'm going to paste this to Bacon. It's fucking so sick. It's, like, one of my favorite images in this entire little arc. And he remains there. Teresa freaking out. She goes through, like, the 5 stages of grief real quick. We get the great Guts, go ahead and kill yourself. That is not an edited meme. Puck slaps him. He ends up indirectly saving her, and she ends up indirectly showing that she wants to live when she nearly falls down, but he grabs her.
So
Lamau Guts.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, one question I had, and maybe I just misread it or something, but why does the hands not take Guts and Teresa as well? Why was the reason for that? Like, why did the...
Well, Teresa doesn't have a mark, so she is not branded for sacrifice.
Okay.
Guts is, but he did a big explosion, so they got scared and ran off, and then the God Hand aren't really concerned.
Okay, so the God Hand just let him live, huh? Interesting.
Well, I think this could play into an interesting, like, dynamic where Griffith doesn't want to pretend that he's, like, scared or cares about Guts, so he can't. Maybe he does still care about him, and he intentionally manipulated stuff so he'd survive because Griffith's still a good guy in the end, and it's going to be revealed that he did it all for a good reason. Maybe there's a bunch of theory stuff about that. Probably not, though.
I mentally broke one of my best friends by raping them for the good of the old people.
Well, he needed to have a baby so he could come back into the world to create Falconia to make the world a better place. Oh no, I pasted the Baphomet thing again to you twice instead of the cool count thingy.
Yeah, I saw.
But I got 7% of the battery. Yes. Also there's a very Devilman-esque like hair. I don't know if this is a Devilman thing, but obviously it's the oldest thing I've seen and I see it a lot. But there's a Teresa hair thing where her hair colors the entire panel. This is at the end of the thing for anybody that isn't Bacon who isn't getting this pasted to them right now. This is in Devilman all the time, so it's might be in 70s manga all the time, but the Teresa bottom panel where it's like the eyes and the hair. I feel like Berserk does it a few times.
Cool, yeah.
There's the earlier thing where it's her mother getting killed or sacrificed in her fake backstory, and their hair sort of is like intercut, where it's like her hair goes into her hair. It's a really cool little thingy. Oh, also, a big thing, Teresa turns around and says, because of you, which is the thing Casca will say to Guts later that will sort of torment him. Because of you, Griffith nearly died. So it's another woman saying, because of you, you ruined everything.
Interesting.
If Casca existed by this point, which she probably did by the end of this arc, probably has some semblance because she'll be in it in 3 chapters or something, and he probably planned at least that much ahead.
So that's why
how this could be Guts remembering, and that's why he gets sad later too. Along with him not being able to do anything to the God Hand, along with him ruining Teresa's life and feeling bad. Fine, I'm ready whenever you are, he says.
Yeah, that's such a good panel as well. Just him crying. So
Yes.
what I'm hearing is that you want Teresa to have a healed arc. She just pops back in. We want the best of both
Kind of.
worlds. She just turns up and she's there for her vengeance. That'd be cool. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we've already got a
Yeah,
good
if it's the
version.
healed arc, I'll be good for it.
Yeah,
I would be down for it. I feel like I see it playing out a little differently. I
of
feel
course.
like 3 years ago, I was like, yeah, and then she kills him at the end, and I'm like, yeah, Teresa's the coolest. Obviously, I
Wow.
don't think that's gonna happen because Guts is gonna be king, bro, and Castor
Yeah.
will be queen, and they're gonna rule over Falconia
I
because
like to
he's gonna
think
be the
what
White Hawk.
Guts is Guts' reaction to that would be.
Yeah, it would be interesting, especially later, especially now, Guts, if he would.
Mhm.
I feel like he would be a bit stoic and just ignore her, and then like Farnese or somebody would talk to her, or Puck would reunite with her and talk her
Yeah.
down, and I think it would probably be quicker than a Hild arc. But
Yeah, for sure.
the just lastly, because I think I have like 3% battery left, 8% actually. Um, Obviously the whole arc is a build up of teasers of Guts's like true emotion showing through and his humanity showing through, and the very last page being him crying. Is a great payoff to all of that, and I feel like it self-contains the arc that fits so well in some ways fits so well into the overall structure, and in some ways sort of ends on sort of an not even an anticlimax because the count stuff comes to an end, but like we don't kill Griffith, we don't like Puck and Guts don't like have their moment that happens later. It
Hmm.
sort of is the closure for the arc of sort of Guts continuing on. Things have changed. He is fucked up. He now understands that he can't really beat Griffith in his current state, and he's starting the process of realizing what he's going to actually prioritize and letting Puck in and everything. And I think it's a great little cap-off ending. Uh,
For sure.
Anything else to say, Jarkey Bacon?
I don't think so.
We rounded it up. Do you have a greater appreciation for the Black Swordsman arc after our talk, or
Yeah,
you
I think I
still in the
do.
same
I think I
place?
do. I'm looking forward to reading more. Let me know how far I need to read. Um,
Yes, I will
let
research that very quickly.
yeah, research that quickly and then maybe tell the audience if they want to keep on reading with us.
Yeah, I'll put in a pin comment or whatever.
Cool.
Because this probably won't go out until tomorrow or maybe even the day after. It might take a while to export and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it'll be out shortly.
Cool.
I'll make sure to have done that. Maybe we'll split it into two. No, probably three. Especially if we did 3 hours on 2 and a bit volumes. I told you we can go on forever.
Hmm.
Unironically, I think if we go up to Zod, there will be less to talk about because it'll be like Guts' very early backstory meeting the Band of the Hawk. Like we don't even really get into the Midland stuff and meeting all of those characters until after.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's what we have into the future.
Fantastic.
I love the Black Swordsman arc. Bacon's getting there. We'll get him there by the end.
Hope so.
The best character, Bacon, quickly.
This arc.
Yep. Just say his name. Starts with a P, ends with an arc.
No, it's not. Yeah, well, actually, I don't know. I don't actually have a favorite. Yeah.
Say her name, Bacon. It's Teresa.
It is probably Teresa. I was thinking about that.
She's fucking sick. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like all those characters. I'd put Teresa the Count, Puck. I guess Guts gets an S tier. I love them all. Vargas is great. I love them all. Chloette gets a nice B tier for being cute. The father can go in C tier. We like him. Snake Baron, you're at the bottom of C tier. You're alright. You don't actively make anything worse. You're just not the most interesting. You know how it goes. Bacon, who's your favorite Berserk character overall? Do you have one? I'm curious.
I really likes is her name Lydia? What is it? The prostitute that was caring
Yes,
for all the people.
Luca.
Luca. I liked her a lot.
He's still, yeah.
I think it's because she in that part of Berserk is like a ray of sunshine that I just was holding on for dear life. I'm a big oh no, I'm gonna forget his name now. Favorite Chad sailor.
Roderick.
Roderick.
Our
yes.
man Roderick.
Yes, Roderick. Big fan of Roderick. Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few smaller characters which I do like and enjoy.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get more of them up until the favorites.
Yeah.
I love them all. Salat is great. Remember Salat? Oh, what a fella.
Yeah, true.
He
Slat.
rejects Griffith. Man, he's fucking sick. But anyway, I got the real super real battery warning. So
All right.
for everybody. Hopefully we continue this with some sense of consistency. I'm loving it. That was a fun talk. We really only get to talk to Bacon once a month with his Villain Saga stuff, so we might up that rate. And it's just me and Bacon, no more RE anymore. Thank God. RE is one of the only people that I'm pretty sure will listen to this. I'm confident we'll listen to the whole thing, so
Not Miller.
We should shit talk him as much as possible. Miller probably will too, huh? He loves Berserk. Mr. R can't because he's currently reading it as the big volumes come out. But and Minty hasn't read nothing, so fuck him. But yes, for me, for Jarkey Bacon, I think this is where we end it. We're probably going to read up to Zod next time. We'll have a lot to talk about, hopefully. Apparently, these aren't going to be shorter than the Black Sails videos. Lamau. With that being said, subscribe to Jarkey Bacon. His Villain Saga videos coming out soon. Subscribe to the main channel. Subscribe to the second channel. Support links in the description below.
Thanks.
Wait, Bacon, you probably didn't hear it because I said it whispering.
No,
hold on, we're doing it again. We're keeping all of that in. All right, I can't whisper it, chat. I'm sorry because we're recording through Discord. Support links in the description below. Thanks. That one came through, right, Bacon?
Yeah, it did cut out a little bit, like for like a fraction of a microsecond, for a femtosecond, some may say. But it was good.
We'll cut it there.